Good evening. It is 6:30. As authorized by Section 551.071 of the Texas Government Code, this meeting may be convened into closed executive session for the purposes of seeking confidential legal advice from the city attorney on any item on the agenda at any time during the meeting. The City of Bastrop reserves the right to reconvene, recess, or realign the regular session or called executive session or order of business at any time prior to adjournment. And Colin, fasten on your seatbelt because we're going to be jumping all over the place tonight. So it is 6:30. We have a full dais, so I am calling this meeting to order. Oh yeah. So we're officially called to order. And giving the pledge tonight, we have CJ and Casey. Come on up so they can see you. CJ is going to be a freshman, and Casey is going to be a junior. Is that correct?
I'm
the opposite way?
Yes, ma'am.
Dr. Lee and I have decided it's been a long school year, and she and I, we don't even know what school they're from, but we're pretty sure they're in the BISD school district, and we're glad to have them this evening. So if everyone will please rise, these two young people will be leading us tonight.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
If you will please remain standing, Chaplain Cottle will be giving us our invocation tonight, and I just realized, do we see him, Chief Altgeld? Have we seen him tonight? All right, I will be giving the invocation tonight. If you'll please join me in prayer. Heavenly Father, thank you so much for giving us the honor and the privilege to serve the citizens of the city of Bastrop. Be with us tonight, give us wisdom, and guide our decisions to be the very best for the community. Have each and every person here to have an open heart and an open mind, to listen to each other respectfully. Be with us as we make decisions that lead us into the future. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. You may be seated. And we are going to call our first, calling it out of order. It's listed in the agenda as item 9B, but it is shown on page 1, and we are consider action to approve resolution number R 2019-51 of the City Council of the City of Bastrop, Texas, confirming the Youth Advisory Council appointments as required in section 3.08 of the city charter, providing for a repealing clause and establishing an effective date. And I gotta get to the right item. And I'm going to call their names, and they're going to come stand up front. And that is Logan Anderson. You met Logan. You can come stand up here and turn around and face the audience. Gwen Ibarra. Ambrose Capitinas. Sorry. Jamie McFall. And Megal Zhu. Let's give these kids a round of applause. They represent Bastrop High School, Cedar Creek High School. We have Ambrose is going to be a 9th grade, and Logan is going to be an 11th grader. Gwen and Megal are going to be 10th graders, and Jamie's going to be a senior. So it's going to be an exciting time for them. And City Secretary, do you have something for me to read with them to swear them in? Okay, I'll go then. So last year was the first year of the Youth Advisory Council, and the students came to the city and asked us if there was a way that they could have a liaison and have a board to be able to interact with council. So they drew up their own bylaws, they made all of their own rules, and it was like everybody has to come to every meeting, and then they found out it's kind of hard to make a quorum if you set your numbers too high. They've learned some lessons about running a board and how to interact with the city. We're thrilled to have them, and I'm going to swear them in, and then we're going to do another item on the agenda because we're giving them an assignment to help us moving forward with one of the items that they most recently were involved in, which was the new hands-free ordinance that's shown on our consent agenda tonight. So if each of you will motion to approve the resolution to accept these people?
So moved.
Second. I have a motion from Councilmember Ennis and a second from Councilmember Jones. Is there any further discussion? Madam Secretary, if you'll call the roll. Thank you, City Manager.
Councilmember Ennis.
Yes.
Councilmember Jones.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Nelson.
Yes.
Councilmember Rogers.
Yes.
Councilmember Peterson.
Yes.
Thank you. So you've been unanimously accepted by council. So now raise your right hand. I state your name, say your name, do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the duties of the office of Youth Advisory Council of the City of Bastrop, Texas, and will do the best of my ability to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution, laws and ordinances of the United States, of this state, and of this city. So help me God. Let's give a round of applause to our new member. Okay, you guys can sit down again.
Y'all can't speed now. No more breaking traffic rules.
Okay, so we are going to jump over to item 8C, which is shown as a consent agenda item on page 3 if you're following along on your agenda. Item 8C is consider action to approve the second reading of ordinance number 2019-19 of the City Council of the City of Bastrop, Texas, amending Chapter 12, Traffic and Vehicles of the City of Bastrop City Code of Ordinances to add Article 12.13, use of portable electronic devices while operating a motor vehicle. Sections 12.13.001, 12.13.002, 12.13.003, and 12.13.004, restricting the use of a portable electronic device while operating a motor vehicle in the City of Bastrop, providing for findings of fact, enactment, repealer, severability, criminal fines not to exceed $300 per offense, effective date, codification, and proper notice and meeting. This item was pulled off of the consent agenda item because there's a council member that wants to get some additional information on public awareness. I'm going to let the chief make a short presentation, and then we're going to visit with you guys about public awareness. Chief Altgeld.
Thank you, Mayor, Council, City Manager. As far as public awareness for this ordinance that's coming into play, like we discussed when you first passed it, there will be signs posted at the 7 major intersections coming into the city alerting the public, not just people that live in the City of Bastrop, that we have such an ordinance. It's common throughout the state that this takes place, so we will have that. We are going to have a social media campaign to put the word out to our community, as well as information on our PEG channel or our public access television channel, alerting that. There's talks about doing some flyers and distributing those also. But the other thing that I think is very important is we're going to go with a 60-day moratorium where we will enforce the ordinance once the signs are put in place. But the first 60 days, those are going to be warnings to first-time violators so that we can do what the object of any ordinance is to generate voluntary compliance and not look to just write tickets and do that. Now, during the 60 days, if we have given you a written warning once, then you had your one chance to be educated if you weren't able to follow up on social media or any of the platforms that we have in there. I've also talked to Dr. Lee about being able to utilize their access through Peachjar and Blackboard by sending communications not only just to the parents of all the students in BISD, but also the employees and the teachers that work there. So we feel with that we can also reach another part of the community that may not follow social media, ma'am.
Yes, the Youth Advisory Council told me the average age of people who use Facebook is 40. Did you guys say 40? 40 to 45, and that hurts to the core of my being. So the discussion was that if we use Facebook and the flyers, there's a big portion of the audience that we're trying to get that are not going to be reached by that. So I was challenging them that I would like them on their next meeting to have an agenda item to discuss how to get the word out to their friends and family. And if you said the date, I apologize. Do we know when the signs would be installed? We
do not yet. They need to be ordered, and of course we have to, on the passing of this, if it passes tonight, it'll also have to be publicized in the newspaper for that. So we still have some time. And I guess advertising on MySpace won't be good then, right?
So, Chief Altgeld, your staff liaison is Trey Job, and Mr. Job's in the back room. He will work with Chief Altgeld and let you guys know what day the signs are going up. But regardless of when the signs are going up, you guys could start putting together what would you do over the summer, what would you do when school starts, how can you interact with your city councils. I would love to have you guys come back and make a presentation to council of what your game plan was to get the word out. You guys agree to do that? Because you really can't say no, so you just might as well. Okay. So, council, is there any other discussions or questions of Chief Altgeld on this item?
I just want to say thank you for addressing my concerns and coming up with a good plan and getting them involved. And I think if you get the kids involved, they'll tell their parents, and hopefully they'll say, "Mom, stop putting that phone away." So hopefully that was my idea. Thank you.
Absolutely, because the whole point of this ordinance is to save lives. It's important, and it's important that we get the word out. So, council, with that, if anyone would like to make a motion.
I move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Rogers, a second from Councilmember Peterson. Is there any further discussion?
Mayor?
Yes, Councilmember Ennis.
Could you mention the fact that this was brought, once again, that this was brought to us by the Youth Council?
Actually, it was brought to us through Generation Citizen.
Okay.
And it was an email from Generation Citizen, and when the Advisory Council found out about it, they also wrote their own resolution in support of it. So it's two different portions of the high school that have asked for this rule. And I raised two teenage boys, and they didn't normally ask me for additional rules. So I am really proud of this, of them taking responsibility for the fact that you realize how dangerous it is to have distracted drivers. And we are literally together, we can save lives.
Thank you.
Madam Secretary, if you'll call the roll.
Councilmember Rogers?
Yes.
Councilmember Peterson?
Yes.
Councilmember Jones?
Yes.
Councilmember Ennis?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Nelson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Let's have a round of applause. Thank you so much. For those of you that are getting sworn in, you're going to step to the back. You have some papers that you need to sign, and the rest of you are free to go. And if your parents want to take your picture, do that out. You can do that as well. But from our standpoint, you've done all the things that we need you guys to do tonight. Thank you so much for offering your time. It's very much appreciated. Okay, with that, Colin, now we're going to shoot back. We're on the top of page 2, and we are on item 4B, which is the mayor's report. I have 2 things to talk about. Most of you probably, hopefully everyone got one of these in the mail, and that is our second ever runoff election in the city of Bastrop. Early voting started today. It is today through Friday, 8 to 5, and next Monday and next Tuesday from 7 to 7, and the election is Saturday, June 8th from 7 to 7. I voted at about 9:45, 10 o'clock this morning, and I was voter number 32. So let's do all we can to get everybody out to vote. Some of you may have followed the recent Smithville election was decided literally by one vote. So every vote counts, and I would encourage everyone to vote. As mayor, sometimes people call me and are very nice to me, and they might have a question, and sometimes people want to share with me the fact they think I have no intelligence whatsoever, or that they're unhappy with how things are going. But every once in a while, you get a really, really neat letter. And they go something like this. Your crew recently did some repairs on our church. The first incident was a water pressure line leak that I found while I was doing some other work. A city truck with a water department trailer was passing by, and I flagged them down. Your folks were overly prompt. The crew was very polite, professional, and kept to the task at hand, which was completed in just a few hours. While there, they assisted in helping me locate the sewer drain exit from the building, which had been requested and previously mismarked. Again, those that assisted in this task were polite, professional, and thorough. We found the exit area, which allowed us to proceed with the other repairs. The most recent incident was on Monday, when Mr. Reynolds' crew did the complete repair to the water line and installed a proper cleanout for the sewer. There were no long delays, no reams of paperwork, no excuses. The job was done right, and done promptly. My dealings with the city are limited, but this has been a very pleasant change of pace. Would that all city departments were run so well and with such great customer service and attitude. On behalf of the Bastrop Bible Church, I thank you for a job well done. And that was to our water and wastewater department. Let's give these gentlemen a round of applause. It's so nice to get those letters, and I did absolutely nothing to deserve the thanks, but I wanted to pass that on. If we go to the next page of my mayor's report, you'll see things were pretty busy between May 2nd and the 15th. The upper left-hand corner, the Mayor Pro Tem and I did a tour of the refuge, which is located within Bastrop County, and it is a home for women that have been in the sex trafficking industry, that have been saved, and they have a refuge, a place to save themselves and start a new life. The picture below is Representative McCall, myself, one of their other donors, and Brooks Chowder, and the dove tiles that we're holding. The location is private and confidential, and people want to help. So one of the things they've done for other organizations is they have this pattern that makes a dove, and you can make a tile, paint the tile, and then behind us, it is the backsplash in the cottages where the girls live. So it's a way to pass on, be involved in it and pass on, and we're each holding one of those dove tiles. It was a really, really neat place, and enjoyed that visit very much. If we keep going to the bottom of that, we left the refuge and then went and had lunch with several folks at the chamber, and Dr. Lee was with us there at the chamber. We had lunch at Maxine's, and that was very enjoyable. Next to that, I went to the soft opening of Leon's Italian Grill, and there's a picture of me with the owners and their son. Above that is Dr. Aby and his staff from the Keeling Center. They had a function at the Art Center, and it was a great function. Those are the folks that take care of the chimpanzees, and we had a neat time. If you go to the upper right part of that picture, the Code Rodeo, shamelessly, that is my husband. I wanted a picture because he hardly ever goes to events with me, but he did come to the Code Rodeo, and that's he and Tommy Hoover checking out the transportation plan. To the right of that was the National Tourism Celebration event that I went to that was at the same time as the Code Rodeo, so I was going back and forth to those. Below that are wonderful, wonderful police officers. This was the Peace Officers Memorial that was held at Fairview Cemetery, and special thanks to Tamara for all of the hard work in putting that event together. It was very nice. Below that was the National Day of Prayer that I participated in, and to the right of that is the Gateway teachers with their goodies, and another shout out for Ruth Bullock that just pulled together some great treats for those guys. Some of you may remember the Gateway School, because their students turn over all the time, they don't have a PTA, so there wasn't a group of folks that was really reaching out for those teachers, so the city took that on, and we made sure that each of those teachers were appreciated. So that's what I did through the 15th. We flip over to the next slide. myself, Mayor Pro Tem Nelson, and Councilmember Ennis, the three of us attended the TML I wrote Small Cities Conference, but it's really Small Town Conference that was held in Granbury, Texas. On Monday, I was at the BDC board meeting. On the 22nd, I totally did not make it to the Texas Vision ribbon cutting, and I apologize for that. I had a meeting run long, and I didn't make it over there. I did make it to the Nibbles ribbon cutting, and there was quite a few pictures posted on Facebook. That was really a great time, and the city's so honored to be a part of that. On Saturday, the BAIPP award ceremony for their 2D and 3D art calls. They gave out their awards, and I participated in that. On Monday, I was at the memorial service. Representative McCall was there, Judge Poppy was there, and we had the best attendance I've seen in probably, someone in the audience is nodding yes, so I'm telling the truth. I think the best attendance in 5 or 10 years. I mean, there were a lot of people there on Monday. It was quite nice. And today's the 28th, so I'm at City Council. On the 30th and 31st, I'll be attending the City Essentials Conference here at the Convention Center. On the 30th, Mayor Pro Tem Nelson might mention there is the Lee Dildy Carts ribbon cutting, and I'm going to run out there for that. On Saturday, June 1st, is the paint-only hazardous waste collection and the rescheduled Healthy Kids Day. The library board meeting on next Monday, the chamber luncheon on Wednesday. Several of us are going to the TML Region 10 quarterly meeting in Pflugerville the following Thursday. As I mentioned, the runoff election is on Saturday. Also on Saturday, we have the Building Bastrop pop-up event, and that is an item on our agenda, and we'll talk about that more in detail. The Cliff Note version, it is watching the Building Bastrop codes come to life. It's going to give you an actual hands-on way of seeing what that code is going to look like. On June 10th, we're having an annual joint meeting with Visit Bastrop, and on the 11th is the next council meeting. And somehow in this, and I apologize, I should have mentioned that tomorrow night we are having a joint meeting with Planning and Zoning. And Visit Bastrop got moved to June 19th. So, it didn't, okay. So sorry about that. So that's June 19th is the joint meeting with Visit Bastrop. With that, Councilmember Peterson, you got anything you want to visit with us about?
Not this afternoon, Mayor.
Councilmember Rogers? Mayor Pro Tem Nelson? Councilmember Ennis?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to say call out the BAIPP board for its excellent program on Saturday. They gave out awards to folks, artists of the 2D and 3D categories, and it was quite well attended. It was an excellent production. I'd also like to recognize the former chair of BAIPP who brought some of the excellent to that particular board, Ms. Deborah Johnson, who's in the audience tonight.
Thank you, Councilmember Ennis. Councilmember Jones?
A couple of things. Councilmember Rogers and I went to the police, the banquet to honor our police force, which was really, really nice. It was such an honor to be there, and we have such a fine group, and that was a lot of fun. Another really cool thing happened to me on Memorial Day. I've been wearing this Vietnam veteran bracelet for almost 50 years. And for those of you that don't know about that, there were people that were killed or MIAs during the Vietnam War, and there were bracelets that were put out so that you could pray for them and remember. I've been to the Vietnam Wall 3 times and visited my guy who was killed in Vietnam, and his family contacted me yesterday.
Wow.
And I know, I tell you, it really made me cry because I wasn't expecting it, and he's become such a part of my life for all these decades. And my dad was a Vietnam veteran, and I just, I appreciate these guys. They're finally getting the honor that they deserve, and it's really people like me that have been praying for and honoring these guys for years. There's a lot of us out there, and I just appreciate you guys so much. So just wanted to share that.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Councilmember Jones. City Manager, I think you have a fun announcement for us tonight.
Yes, Mayor and Council, I am proud to announce that we have hired a new library director. Her name is Rebecca Sexton. She is currently a branch manager for the Austin Public Library. She is a dynamo. I will absolutely tell you that we have interviewed her a couple of times, and the library staff had participation in the interview committee, and when it was determined we were going to select her, they whooped out loud so much that when we left the meeting, Tracy goes, "Who was that screaming in your office?" I said, "That was the library staff." They were thrilled at the appointment. So Rebecca is passionate about library. She is not the typical librarian. Most of your librarians are introverted. She is extroverted. She will absolutely up the game of public engagement. The staff loved her. She's extremely knowledgeable about the library, its roots, its heritage, and staying relevant in the 21st century. I loved her team approach and how she includes staff, how she includes the public, and her philosophy on leadership. I think she will absolutely be a great fit, and we are all excited. In fact, Bonnie Pearson, who has been the interim library director and done an amazing job, has already scheduled her reception. So I think before the ink dried good on the acceptance, Bonnie was planning her reception. That's how fired up we are to have her on our team. So I look forward to the first meeting in July when Becca can be here and I can introduce her in public.
Great, City Manager. Thank you so much for that information. I appreciate it. All right, we are on item 4E. I'm going to ask Abby Boland to step forward, and I'm going to run down and read a proclamation for Abby. And Colin, giving you a fair warning, I'm going to then go to 6C and let Susan Smith present, and then we will be going to item 9C. Okay? While I'm talking about you. Whereas Girl Scouts of Central Texas is the preeminent leadership development organization for girls, Girl Scouts offer every girl a chance to practice a lifetime of leadership, adventure, and success. They span 46 countries in Central Texas with more than 17,000 girls and 12,000 adult volunteers experiencing new adventures every single day. Whereas in 1916, before women in the U.S. had the right to vote, the beloved founder of Girl Scouts, Juliette Gordon Low, recognized the importance of community service and had the vision to honor girls who went above and beyond to serve the needs of others and promote them to the highest level of Girl Scouting achievement. It was then called the Golden Eaglet. Today, it's called the Gold Award. And though the name has changed, the character of the girl earning it remains remarkable. Whereas the Girl Scout Gold Award is the highest award a Girl Scout can earn by using her values and skills, each girl chooses a community issue that she cares about and creates a plan for a sustainable project, one that lasts after the girl's involvement ends. Once achieved, her project shows colleges, employers, and her community that she is changing the world. As a gold recipient, these girls are part of an elite group of women. And whereas Abby Boland of Bastrop, Texas, received the Gold Award on January 18, 2019, through her project called Angel Sleeping Bags. She gathered 120 tiny biodegradable sleeping bags that will be used during burials for premature born babies. All of the shrouds were given to a green cemetery in Cedar Creek called Eloise's Woods and to other green cemeteries in Texas. Now, therefore, I, Connie Schrader, Mayor of the City of Bastrop, do hereby recognize May 28, 2019 as Girl Scout Gold Award recipient Abby Boland Day. Let's have a round of applause for Abby. Congratulations. Very cool. We're going to take pictures. proud of you. Congratulations. Good job. So proud of the young people in this community, and I believe your brother is an Eagle Scout. Let's have a round of applause for the Bolin family. All righty, as promised, we're zipping over to 6C, receive monthly report from Visit Bastrop. The Visit Bastrop staff sometimes has to wait hours, so I'm cutting them some slack tonight.
We appreciate it. Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, City Manager, and Council. I'm happy to present our April President's Report. I'm going to start off a little bit tonight by just talking about some of the highlights that we've had in the last month. And then Ashton LaFuente, our marketing manager, will go over our PR and marketing efforts. Then I'll come back and review our sales efforts with you. So we are in the throes of the Corvette invasion planning. They will be here July 19th, 20th, and 21st. We expect anywhere from 300 to 500 Corvettes in town, and then anywhere from 2,000 to 4,000 participants. Saturday night, the 20th, they will have a parade down Main Street. So we're very excited about that and the economic impact that it'll bring to our area. As the mayor mentioned, we celebrated National Tourism Week at the Lost Pines Art Center. We discussed the effects of tourism on our economy, both locally and nationally. We had our second annual music festival that we have heard many comments that it was a huge success, and results of that for next month. We've also been meeting this past month with several different promoters to look at different options for the city of Bastrop for music events and other events, also looking at the arena. I know that Councilmember Jones is fond of that, so we are looking at that. And Christy Hunn and myself, Christy is our marketing coordinator, completed and graduated from the Best Leadership Program last week. So I'll have Ashton will do our marketing report.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, City Manager. We're reporting for the month of April, so we can jump right in and look at visitbastrop.com for the month. Oh, wrong way. For the month of April, we had about 16,000 people looking at our website. Their average time on the site was about 2 minutes. Things that they were looking at are things to do, events, Easter activities, Hyatt on-site activities, the cities that people live in that look at our website, Austin, Houston, Bastrop, Dallas, and San Antonio, so very much our drive market. Bastrop is our third biggest chunk of the pie, so we recognize that our local community is also part of our following. Social media stats, nothing too big to report there. We're kind of just trucking along. Still seeing some good growth in Instagram and not very much growth in Facebook. Nothing to make a percentage change, but a little bit of growth there. Moving on to page 3 is a highlight of our PR summary. We work with the following publications for these events that were happening. Hero Water Sports had a challenge out at their facility in the beginning of May. It actually got rescheduled due to the weather, but we were getting some coverage for them. They went on the news and did an in-studio interview with some of their anchors. We also worked with KTBC and KXAN. There was a young man traveling through a couple weeks ago by kayak, and we just thought it might be a really good opportunity if we can get someone to stop him while he was here in Bastrop to kind of generate coverage that he was here and traveling through. So we did secure some coverage for that as well, and that was just fun. Moving on to page 4 of the PR summary. We put out some media alerts. Media alerts are a little bit different than press releases. They're designed to go out just a few days before the event in hopes to generate some coverage. We got some good coverage for Table on Main and, again, the Hero Water Sports. We did secure an article in the Austin Chronicle for Table on Main, and then, again, the in-studio interview with Hero Water Sports. Another part of our PR efforts is event submissions. And we work with the Bastrop Opera House, for their Dracula musical, and then we also were working on getting some generation for Bastrop Music Festival. So those publications are where we secured coverage for those events. So very cool. Another thing that we work on, and we're working with Google. It's a really heavy part of our marketing efforts. We submit a list of Google keywords to Google. We try to be the ranking authority. So our objectives are to build awareness about Bastrop and to drive qualified traffic to our website, so people searching about things to do, places to eat, activities, and stuff like that. So we're trying to be one of the highest ranking links on the Google search. We've created some really cool insights, conversions, 6,000 clicks, almost 60,000 impressions. Our demographic is the 45 to 50-year-old female, and our top users are Austin, Houston, Dallas, and San Antonio. So again, our drive market. So very cool to see. It's also very cool to see that the people that are naturally finding us on Google are the people who are naturally finding us on our website. So that's very cool to see. Page.
Ashton, real quick.
Yes, sir.
What is meant by conversions?
Are people who visited our website and then they left our website to move on to somebody else's website. So probably one of our partners. So someone who came to us looking for something to do or somewhere to eat, and they found what they were looking for and they traveled off to the other site.
So they did that through a link on your website?
Yes. Yes. And then some looking ahead marketing initiatives. We always kind of come to you guys with what we've already done. So I just put a bullet pointed list of things we're really working on. Some heavy hitters. We're working on a media kit. So anytime that someone wants to come and visit us, we have a kit that we send out to them. It has like stats, just a lot of cool stats and facts that makes it easier to write about us. We're also working constantly to let people know that we are a destination. So we pitched, we worked with Colin and the Chamber, and everybody submitted all these really cool articles to us, and we submitted Bastrop to Reader's Digest as one of the nicest places in 2019. We're also working with social media influencers. We're doing about 4 to 6 this year. We just had our first one come in. She's an Austin lady. She's got about 65,000 people who follow her on Facebook, but we're working with several different influencers throughout the fiscal year to elevate the destination and get our word out. We're also working on a visitor's guide and a meeting planner guide because we currently don't have an up-to-date resource for the visitor or the meeting planner. And then we talk a lot about having people write stories for us, but we're also developing our own blog. So we'll be writing our own story. So that's kind of a highlight for the month of April. I'll stand for any questions you guys have.
Councilmember Jones?
So I went to the music festival and I had so much fun.
Good.
Thank you guys. You did a really good job.
Thank you. We're glad to hear that.
Councilmember Ennis, did you have any?
I had one, but it's going to show my age, so I think I'll just pull back from it.
Okay.
It won't change your age. You do realize that. Okay. All right.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, I will be reviewing the lodging industry report for March. We are always about 2 months behind on this. It's a report that comes out from Smith Travel, also known as the STAR report. You will notice that if we look over to the percentage change from February of 2018 to from this February, or I'm sorry, March to March, you will see that there's quite a few numbers with a negative sign. The reason for that is, after some discussion, as you know, Hyatt is our biggest player, so our numbers are driven by what happens with the Hyatt. The Hyatt had, there was 2 hotels in Austin. The Fairmont was flooded, and the Omni was going through some remodeling, so therefore a lot of their guests and their meetings ended up at the Hyatt. So that's why we're seeing a little dip this month compared to last year. Other than that, once you take away those factors, everything looks at normal.
Were the 2 items that were conditions going on in Austin, that was last year?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That's why the numbers are down this year. And then our sales report for April, we had 5 leads that we prospected for a total of 906 room nights with an estimated attendees of around 1,900 for an economic impact of $250,000, which contributed to our year-to-date economic impact of about $2.5 million. Leads, just again to review, our opportunities for business for our members and our partners to bid on for their hotels for overnight stays. And then they don't necessarily turn definite in the same month, so it could be a few months now before the decision will come out if they turn definite, so those numbers don't always match every month. We did have one definite that closed for 76 room nights, 150 attendees, and economic impact of about $26,000. And our year-to-date definite impact is about $530,000.
Are those leads generated by Visit Bastrop?
Yes, sir.
Great.
And we have a great May coming. Any other questions?
Visions of things to come, huh?
Yes.
All right. Council, any further questions for Ms. Smith? Councilmember Peterson?
Thanks, Mayor. Excuse me. I'm just brainstorming. I know you guys watch the hotel industry, especially when they have large events in Austin. But does anyone look at, say, like places like KOA that have functions in Austin? The KOA is filled to the max, and they're using our stores and so forth. Is there any way to track them, or do you track them?
To track the KOA sales on our report? Or is that what you're saying?
Yes.
We don't actually track those currently. We're tracking strictly hotel, motel, but that is something to look at. Absolutely.
You know, to that point, then maybe at some point you might want to start considering to track the Airbnbs, because that's something that we voted on as well. I mean, just something to think about.
That would be great.
She's smiling and saying that would be great because that would require them to report it.
Well,
Right?
Airbnbs would have to report it, and I think there is possibly one way that we could do that with the way that we're looking at possibly bringing in the contractors, the consultant to look at the hot fund. To do the audit, thank you. So there may be a way to do it through there. It's just such a difficult, dynamic animal, but it's a great idea.
Yeah, we make good decisions when we have good data, so all the data that we can get. Council, any further questions for Ms. Smith? Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, so 6C is done. As I promised, we will be going to 9C next. I have 4 people signed up to speak. And for anybody else in the audience that was interested in 9A, item 9A is being pulled. So that's being pulled. The city manager just asked me to pull that. So I just always try to make sure that folks know what's going on. And I believe, City Secretary, we have no one signed up for citizens' comments.
No, Mayor.
Okay, so that we can consider that item complete as well. We have no one sign up. So we are on item 9C. Consider action to approve the first reading of resolution number R 2019-54 of the City Council of the City of Bastrop, Texas, approving the executive director or interim executive director of the Bastrop Economic Development Corporation obtain a loan in the amount of $1,800,000 for construction of a building at the lot at 921 Main Street, repealing all resolutions in conflict, providing severability, and providing an effective date. Fallon Davis will be presenting tonight. Mike Camerlander has a family emergency and he is out of the office. Ms. Davis will present, and then we will hear from the folks that are signed up to speak. Ms. Davis.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, and City Manager. I'm Fallon Davis, Marketing Communications Manager for the BEDC. Thank you for considering Resolution R-2019-54 to allow the BEDC to obtain a loan from Roscoe State Bank in the amount of $1.8 million in order to construct a 9,000 square foot building at 921 Main Street. In 2003, 921 Main suffered a fire resulting in a vacant lot. Subsequent discussions followed regarding how the space could best impact the city of Bastrop. In February 2017, the city of Bastrop sold 921 Main to BEDC when the costs associated with maintenance, operation, and future remediation to secure the site to usable and safe standards became untenable. In 2016, BEDC conducted two independent This is awkward. Sorry about that. Thanks. Sorry. In 2016, BEDC conducted two independent third-party studies to determine the best use of the site from all community stakeholders. The result of the studies revealed the best use of the site to be a commercial space. That space would be 9,000 square feet of new construction that is up to code and tenant ready. Given the results of the study, BEDC secured a developer in 2017 to construct the building with BEDC securing the top floor rent, leaving the bottom floor open for commercial space. As previously reported, that developer came very close to securing a tenant for the bottom floor, the necessary impetus to begin construction. That tenant was not able to sign the lease due to the long timeline associated with construction. Business owners are hesitant to sign a lease in advance of occupancy. In the meantime, the walls on both sides of 921 continue to crumble away to the detriment of the businesses that share those walls. Earlier this year, BEDC completed the first phase of remediation of those walls in order to prevent further damage. The final remediation includes the newly constructed building to seal and cap those walls, eliminating further exposure to the elements and further immediate deterioration. BEDC's mission is to facilitate quality primary job creation projects that will result in better job opportunities for the residents of Bastrop. While quality of life projects are helpful in creating a vulnerable sense of place where people want to live and work at Bastrop, these type of projects come secondary to city Bastrop. During the 2020, I'm sorry, I don't know full well. I'm sorry.
Are you okay?
No.
Catherine, will you, yes, let's go sit down and we'll get Chief, because you're scaring me. So please go sit down. Yeah, she's gonna faint. She's gonna faint, James.
Yeah.
Step back. Please step back. Will y'all ask Andreas to come here, please?
We're in recess.
Do you have water? Water?
got the right people taking care of her, and they don't need our help. So we're going to keep going. I'm recognizing Catherine Nash as the chair of the BEDC board, and she's going to finish the presentation. Ms. Nash?
Yes, as Ms. Davis was saying, that at the time the final remediation includes the newly constructed building to seal and cap those walls, eliminating further exposure to the elements and further immediate deterioration. So BEDC's mission is to facilitate quality primary jobs creation projects that will result in better job opportunities for the residents of Bastrop. While quality of life projects are helpful in creating a wonderful sense of place where people see themselves and want to live, those types of projects should be secondary to the primary job creation projects. During the May 20th, 2019 BEDC meeting, the Texas Government Code 505.152 was misstated by BEDC Council and has been corrected, recognizing the allowance for a public park. Although the BEDC could make a park, the board unanimously voted to act on the recommendation from the study and develop a commercial building. Before you tonight, Council, you are considering a resolution to allow the BEDC to obtain a $1.8 million loan that will facilitate a job creation project that has a potential to have an enormous impact on the city of Bastrop. BEDC is currently engaging a prospect that, if successfully negotiated, will lease the entirety of the building and create approximately 100 jobs, increasing the daily traffic in downtown Bastrop. Without this loan and without this building, it is not possible to land this prospect and provide the economic development opportunity downtown that this project is capable of doing. Once the lease is secured and the construction initiated, we will immediately begin shopping the building to a buyer. When a fully leased building at market rate, we are supremely confident we will find a buyer. Once that occurs, BEDC will no longer own the building. Private capital will. BEDC is not looking to hold this asset any longer than we have to, but we are willing to do so given the impact of this particular project. We are confident that the deal will happen, but we acknowledge that a deal is not a deal until the papers are executed. Should this deal fall through, the BEDC will aggressively market the building with the help of a commercial broker to find a suitable tenant for downtown Bastrop. The rate on the financing will yield lease rates that are within market rates for the Bastrop area. BEDC may lease a portion of the upstairs so the building is not empty, and once other tenants are found, it will actually allow the BEDC to have a lower rent than today as an owner-occupied building. The goal will still be to get the building on the tax rolls, with taxpayers paying rent. The bottom line is the BEDC can own and control the entire 921 Main Street project with less annual expenditure than the original passed last October, which provided a master lease of the upstairs only. The BEDC board is unanimous in its decision to pursue the $1.8 million loan and further the core mission of BEDC, job creation and broadening the tax base. Others may want to see a pocket park, and that is their opinion, and one that was weighed during the third-party studies. The BEDC board believes this prospect and its impact on the community have advantages that outweigh all other options. BEDC is not shooting in the dark, and we are not asking to construct a project with a wish and a prayer. We really have a very strong prospect that will occupy all 9,000 square feet for a long-term lease, covering the entire cost associated with the ownership of the building. Thank you for your consideration of this item.
Thank you, Ms. Nash, especially for the circumstances. We really appreciate you presenting.
Excuse me, Mayor.
Councilmember Jones?
I noticed that there are other people that have come in and signed up to speak, and I respectfully ask that they be allowed to speak, as anyone who has come in and signed up late has been given that opportunity.
Councilmember Jones, I'm going to speak with the city attorney about it. That is my understanding, based on our rules and procedures that we adopted over a year ago, and we publish it on our agenda and on the sign-up sheets. The only time I have made exceptions, people were turning them in less than 5 minutes, and while we were still doing our call to order. But I appreciate your request. I'm going to confer with the attorney. But at this time, we have never, ever, since we adopted the rules unanimously as a council, we've never let anyone turn in something 30 minutes late.
Okay, but nonetheless, we have had people turn it in late. I'm asking that you extend the same consideration. This is a big item. There are people that I believe we should allow anyone who wants to speak on this item be allowed to speak. And, breaking a rule a little bit and breaking it a lot, I don't see too much of a difference here. It still has been given, we have given consideration to our citizens to speak. So I am respectfully asking that we allow anyone who would like to speak on this topic to please speak.
I appreciate your request. I'm going to confer with the attorney. The first person who was signed up to speak is Glenn Johnson. I'm sorry, Councilmember Ennis?
Can I
Absolutely.
Yes.
Ms. Nash, you say this is a really valid prospect. Y'all feel like it's a go? Without giving anything away, I know it's an executive session type stuff.
The discussions have been strong. They have been ongoing. We see an end date to have a decision. So as we all know, even on the last one that we were so hopeful for and we thought was a done deal, it didn't quite happen. We feel stronger and better about this one.
Great. Thank you.
Any other questions for Ms. Nash? Councilmember Rogers?
Well, on the last one, I understood why you were speaking that retailers or occupants are hard to sign a lease if the building's not made yet. So is that the same situation? The person you're looking at occupying it won't sign a lease until the building's made, or until you have an approval to build a building?
No, actually, they're eager to sign a lease before the building is actually built. This is a very unique, great opportunity that we have stumbled upon, or they have stumbled upon us. It has been quite a collaboration with many, many discussions with many people. And it's moving forward to sign a lease before the building is built. As remarkable as that sounds, because we really didn't think that could happen.
I'm very happy to hear that. I just remember before this, it took them over 8 months to find someone when we thought we had already had a building built while they were still looking for someone to rent it. So.
Mm-hmm. I will say in that situation, there were circumstances that were totally out of the blue and unexpected, in addition to the fact that it is hard for a business to see what it's going to look like 1 year out when they're ready to get going. But there were a combination of factors on that.
Do you feel confident in the one you have now?
Feeling very good.
Okay. Thank you for answering my questions.
Any further, Councilmember Jones?
A couple of things. In your presentation, you're talking about a partner in this deal being a necessary impetus, and yet we're willing to not have a partner to go forward. And I also heard you say that we felt pretty good about the last person and it fell through, and we're feeling pretty good about this person. And so, I'm really anxious to hear what you have to say to us, because I can say one of the hallmarks of this council is for us to make good decisions, we've got to have good information. And I don't feel like I've been provided good information on this. And so I'm really looking forward to what you have to say. And, yeah.
One comment that I would make is that as Ms. Nash presented, the financing is by Roscoe, and that is public information, but the details of that financing arrangement is not public information at this time. So that's, quite frankly, after we hear the folks present, we may be going into executive session because I can't share things, and Ms. Nash can't share things that are not public, that I realize is allowing you to not have an entire picture. But it is information that was discussed and posted on executive session for BEDC, so the people who voted for the deal had access to that information.
I will say that the decision to build a building in the original arrangement with Stone Cobalt was based off of the site studies, which determined that a commercial property was indeed the best route. So once that decision was made to build that building, how lucky are we to also come up with a group of people who are interested in that location and that building before it is being built. But what that does allow us in building that building are some options. Because a vacant cement slab that is remediated for the time being is still not going to hold up those two buildings on both sides. So with the building of the building, and thankfully a lead on a fabulous partner, we still have options to move forward where we would not have options otherwise. So building the building will open up opportunities to eventually get it back on the property tax rolls.
So is it, and I don't know, so I'm asking, was Cobalt the original impetus for the development of this project that backed out or not? Or were they just the developer?
They're just a developer. They were shopping the deal.
They're shopping the deal.
They were shopping the deal, and that was when we determined that we wanted to build the building.
Councilmember Jones, I believe the question you're asking is the potential tenant that we had. That was never made public knowledge. That deal was almost there, and then that fell through, and that was not public knowledge who that deal was.
Mm-hmm. But I guess my question is, because we are not privileged to this and are completely kept in the dark as to what's going on, is was Cobalt part of that, and now they've just backed off to a developer position, or were they actually part of that arrangement to have this tenant on the bottom floor?
Stone Cobalt has absolutely nothing to do with the tenant that she's speaking of that would take the whole building.
I'm not talking about the tenant that would take the whole building, but the one that we thought we had in the bag that we didn't, before this tenant that we now think we have in the bag that we don't. That's my question.
The tenant was secured by Stone Cobalt in their development and advertising of the space.
So the tenant was secured by Cobalt. We no longer have that tenant, but Cobalt is still very happy to build this building for us without that tenant. The tenant that we lost, is that accurate?
It's a different arrangement. They are no longer doing they're not seeking a tenant for us. They are actually playing the role as a builder.
I understand that.
So it was a $2.3 million deal for them to take the risk of looking for the downstairs tenant. So this deal is $1.8 million to build the building only, and that would be their role, is to build and do the construction management of the building.
And that's not finished, right? I mean, that's with the tenants finishing out their own space on the inside.
That's a warm shell.
Yeah, that's
right. So that $1.8, $200 a square foot is for somebody to come in and build us a shell. But you're saying previously it was, and I'm sorry to ask so many questions, but I've never had any of these questions answered. So I'm just, just want to know. So you're saying that previously it was $2.3 million with Cobalt, who brought the tenant, which is $255 a square foot. Now we're looking at $200 a square foot unfinished. I think the highest sales we've had downtown have been $85 a square foot, to kind of put that in perspective. So, I mean, I'm just real interested in hearing the details, okay?
Thank you.
I just have one more
Councilman
question.
Rogers?
The new tenant that we're hoping for, crossing our fingers, And they're well aware that once the building is finished, BEDC is trying to sell it, so that the lease that they're signing, they're well aware that somebody else is going to be their landlord. Hopefully, as soon as we get the keys, we sell it to somebody else.
Yes.
They're okay with that?
Yes.
Okay, all right, just want to make sure they were aware of it.
Good question. Okay. Any other questions for Ms. Nash? We're going to hear from the folks that signed up to speak, and then we'll be convening an executive session so we can confer with our attorney. The first person signed up to speak is Glenn Johnson. Mr. Johnson, if you'll state your name and your address. Thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you, Mayor. Glenn Johnson, 1109 Pecan Street, Council Manager. I submitted to the Bastrop Advertiser a guest editorial, or whatever. I think it will be published Thursday. I sent it to you so that you would know what my synopsis of my position was, rather than confusing you without giving you the facts. One fact that is known is that since 2003, when the building at 921 Main burned for the last time, no one has wanted to develop that space. No one has put up their own money. We still have that same situation. And so now the solution is to use taxpayer money to go into the most speculative land deal ever conceived, a lot that has not been developed in 16 years for what reason, we don't know. Ms. Jones pointed out, and I know it's a fact that since I office in downtown Austin, the square footage rental that would be required, at least in the earlier provision, was equivalent to the highest grade commercial office space in Bastrop. Why anybody would office in Bastrop when they could get the same space for the same price in Austin, I don't know. That's the one truth. No one has put up their money, and we can't get a deal done unless the taxpayer dollars are given. I'm not going to go through every point I made. You have my comments, and the people can read it on Thursday, I think. If it's going to, and Mr. Sevilla indicates that yes. The resolution that BEDC put in was that we need to build the building and cited the case, the law. I knew that was not correct. The mayor was a little concerned too at the meeting. And I went home that night, and in 15 minutes I found out it was incorrect. And so the next day I sent an email to the chairman of the board, and on Thursday morning I got a response from the attorney saying, yes, there is an exception for Type B corporations projects to have park and park facilities, open space improvements, and related area transportation facilities, such as walking paths currently being constructed partially with BEDC funds. I don't know why that mistake was made to the BEDC board right before they voted, but it was. And so they were under the impression that all we could do was build a building. That's not the case. That's not the law. The other point I'll just make, you know all my other points. The more I look at this, the more concerns I have. And you may have the same concerns. You do not have to decide this tonight. This is an important, really radical departure from what the BEDC has done in the past. We've helped people out, and sometimes their business plan doesn't work. A brewery who finds that our water's not good enough to make beer, and so we let them out their contract. Here, we, the taxpayers, have the sole responsibility if this thing doesn't work. The speculative venture, when there's a great thing that needs to be done, as I point out in my little article, is to do an open park. But that's just my opinion. You may have a different opinion, and there's dozens of studies that show what needs to be done for towns like Bastrop, Texas, downtown, to make it more conducive to tourists. And with the emphasis on tourism, we need that. We also need all the money we can get because of all the infrastructure problems we've got. Rebuilding the Iron Bridge, the symbol of our town, rebuilding the water and infrastructure. Yet we're going to borrow $1.8 million. The bank will make money on a building that no one else wanted, that is overpriced for downtown Bastrop. I urge you to consider, and if you need more time, I urge you to table this motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Johnson. The next person we have signed up to speak is Nancy Wood. Ms. Wood, if you'll please state your name and your address. Thank you for coming tonight.
Mayor, Council, City Manager, Nancy Wood, 906 Walnut Street. Citizen retail part-time associate on Main Street and former Main Street manager for the City of Bastrop. My purpose here in talking to you about the use of 921 Main Street is to remind you that perhaps opportunities to look at this in more depth and take some time. Quality of life issues are important in our historic downtown, and this space could generate a meeting space, a gathering space for shoppers downtown. Some key statistics are that these kinds of outdoor venues boost foot traffic by 20%, they increase retail sales by 10%, and they increase local property taxes adjacent to a downtown with that kind of facility by 7%. So when you look at this, if this is an alternative, now it's hard from my standpoint as a former Main Street manager to argue with 100 new employees downtown. I think that would be really great foot traffic. So if that particular a tenant would take a building like that, I think it would be worth the investment. But I'm kind of the opinion that if that is really as solid as it is, 100 employees downtown would be great. If it's still a wish list, then take the time to consider another alternative as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Wood. The next person we have signed up to speak is Debbie Moore. Ms. Moore, if you'll come forward and say your name and address. Thank you for coming tonight.
My name is Debbie Moore, 1306 Church Street. I've never owned a brick and mortar business, but I have spent hundreds of hours on Main Street trying to help build the downtown area. But before I go into that, I want to say that I have the utmost respect for the men and women who serve on BEDC, and I think they made a decision based on what they thought were the facts at the time. I wonder if there had been any change of heart had they known that open space or a plaza was an option. I just wanted to get that out there. I got friends on both sides of the issue, and I always stand with my friends, so, you know. But this is more than just a quality of life issue. What Mr. Johnson said, there has, in all the years, I moved here in 2004, the building had already burned, and there was nobody in all that time that had wanted to step up and put a roof over that spot. It wasn't until the Downtown Business Alliance signed a lease with the city after the city purchased it from the previous owner that things started happening there. We had bands there. We had Indian dancers there. We had school choruses. We had things that brought people to ice skating rink in downtown Bastrop. It was a hive of energy and foot traffic and people eating in restaurants and visiting our downtown. And it's been just sitting there. We had private investors at the time that wanted to put money into the plaza. But once again, the city wanted to put it on the tax rolls, so it sat vacant all this time. The statistics that Ms. Wood gave you can be expanded upon, and it also generates tax revenue. It improves property tax values. It is something that would be a focal point for this city. And I would urge you at this time to, given the fact that BEDC was given some erroneous information, and given the fact that this is such a departure, and $1.8 million is not something to be sneezed at. And once you start building, you can't turn back. And we've had some thoughts for sure tenants in there before that didn't come about. There's been a roof over 921 Main Street 3 times. 3 times the buildings have burned. I maintain to you that God don't want a roof over 921 Main. Keep it in open space. Keep your minds open. Take some time. Don't make a decision tonight. Look at the information that we've given you. Look at the information that's readily available on the economic benefits of an open space in a downtown like we have. And remember, it's burned 3 times. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Moore, for throwing down the God card. The next person signed up to speak is Deborah Johnson. If she'll please come forward and say her address. Thank you, Ms. Johnson, for coming tonight.
Deborah Johnson, 1109 Pecan Street. Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. I was in a leadership positions with DBA when the organization leased 921 from the city. DBA erected a stage, and many performances happened there, including the 3-day El Camino Real Music Festival during several Yesterfests, a cowboy breakfast, a skating rink during Lost Pines Christmases, pop-up vendors, stage presentations during Veterans Day, food courts. It hosted a Halloween street dance for teenagers there, as well as visits with Santa. DBA put up lights, picnic tables, planters with flowers, and vignettes for photo opportunities during holidays and tourist seasons. You would frequently find people just stop there to pose in front of a Christmas-decorated wooden wagon, chat at a picnic table, or have their lunch. This illustrated various ways that a gathering place or plaza could be used in downtown Bastrop. DBA was approached regularly with requests to rent the space for things like motorcycle rallies, vendor booths, and private parties, although DBA was not set up to handle those kind of rentals for various reasons. But this illustrates that a plaza itself could be a revenue builder for the city. DBA was working with a local builder who drew up a plan to build a permanent stage with the cover, electricity, and lighting, repair the back wall, and build sidewalls with covered walkways from the back parking lot to Main Street. These walkways would also have provided protected areas for markets, vendors, and various activities. The middle was to be covered with an awning type of shade cover. I think God would approve an awning. A business in town was willing to pay a major portion of the $75,000 cost for this community plaza. DBA had begun to have discussions with the city when the water and safety issue of the walls came up and the lease was canceled. While this price of $75,000 did not include bathrooms, it did not remediate the side walls, it does show that converting 921 to a plaza will be a small fraction of a $1.8 million price tag. I encourage the City Council to delay consideration of this loan and to work with and encourage BEDC to consider other options, since working with professionals in the property development to put a building at 921 has not been successful with anyone else putting up their money. Take some time to think creatively about other options that would enhance the downtown area and give both residents and tourists opportunities for more activities on Main Street. A community plaza or gathering space with a stage, shade structures, plants, tables, and chairs could be a place where people could gather and linger. Bathrooms would certainly be welcome and help with keeping people downtown longer. The ability to have activities there that are family-friendly would be a great boost to the downtown ecosystem, as most activities happening downtown at this time are alcohol and bar-related, or mostly for adults like the car show. Giving people a place to linger on Main Street, as well as additional access to Bastrops, would be a much-needed boost to the businesses downtown, in particular those of retail, who no longer have the tens of thousands of people who attended events that used to take place on Main Street. And what those retail businesses do not need is the risk of another empty, overpriced rental space on Main Street. So please take a step back, delay your decision, and get creative. Sometimes quality of life can take precedence over making money. Thank you.
All right, the whispering is me conferring with the attorney, and I have been told We do have a person who came in at 7 o'clock and asked to speak. I need a motion and a second and a vote, and this person can speak.
I move that the person who came in at 7 o'clock be allowed to speak to the council, please.
No, the motion is that we waive the rules and procedures. That's what the motion needs to be.
I make a motion that we waive the rules and procedures and allow the person who came in at 7 o'clock to speak.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further clarification? We will be reviewing our rules and regulations annually, and we can address it at that time. So this voting is for this night on this item only. Am I saying that correctly, City Attorney?
Yes, that's correct.
Do you have any questions for Alan before you vote? Madam Secretary, if you'll call the roll.
Councilmember Jones?
Yes.
Councilmember Peterson?
Yes.
Councilmember Ennis?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Nelson?
Yes.
Councilmember Rogers?
Yes. Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Schiff, if you would come forward and state your name and address. Thank you for coming tonight.
My name is Gary Schiff. I live at 118 Lincoln in Bastrop. And I think everybody here knows me. I was the Mayor Pro Tem last year. I have a lot of concerns. Have they received the little handout? I put together a bullet point list of my issues with that building at 921. I've been here in Bastrop a long time. I've seen the fires. I've been here 40-something years. I've owned 5 buildings on Main Street. I'm a commercial realtor. I was on the EDC board for 18 and a half years. I was on the council for 3 years. Know a little bit about real estate. And so my questions are, and I had no background to know that there's a prospect or anything, and there may be other considerations beyond what I've seen, what I'm putting forth here, but definitely if you don't have a contract, it makes me really concerned that you would spend this kind of money. But so I'm concerned how much is being spent right now. At 9,000 square feet, you're looking at $200 a square foot, and what I just heard was that doesn't include fit out, so you're looking at another probably $1 million to fit the building out. You're going to be at pushing $3 million on a building downtown Main Street when I've sold or represented 2 buildings in the last year and a half that have sold for less than $90 a square foot, and they're move-in ready buildings. They're not just gutted shells, which the $200 a square foot would be a gutted shell. What would be the expected rent? Downtown rents are extremely low. I'm representing a client right now. He's asking $12 a square foot per year, $1 per month. He has had it on the market for a year, no prospects. I'm understanding that the going rate right now is more like 60 or 50, 60, $70 or 70 cents a square foot per month. That's about $7 a square foot. Commercial realty, if you're spending $300 a square foot for building space, you're going to be looking at trying to get $30 a square foot per year. Right now you can't get $12 a square foot. So where's that building going to be if you don't have that tenant on a long-term lease? I'm guessing, I didn't run the numbers, but in my head I can add up at least 20,000 square feet of vacant space in downtown Bastrop right now. Take one of those buildings, finish it out for this tenant, you come out way ahead. Buildings are currently very cost effective downtown. I state here that I did hear that there might be a tenant, and so I'm asking, why isn't this lease strong enough that you can get private developer? I get calls all the time on buildings, properties that I own that are income producing. If they're producing income with a cap rate that gives a good return, finding investors, there is so much money out there right now. I could find investors very quickly if there was money on a piece of paper, if there was a signed contract that was long-term with a credit tenant. That means somebody that's been around, that represents that they have a history, that they'll be around for another 10 or 20 years. Go down my list here. Let's see if there's anything else here. Oh, the other part would be the parking issues. Now, something about 100 new employees. 100 new employees will not fit in 9,000 square feet unless you have bunk desks. It isn't going to happen. The tendency on a building that size, I don't know what the numbers really are, but according to code, if you built a new building outside the downtown area, you would be required three parking spaces per 1,000 square feet for your average office building. That would mean for 9,000 square feet, you need 27 parking spaces. 27 parking spaces, where are those going to come from? You already got a problem with parking downtown. Who's going to want to be downtown if your employees can't park there? Anyhow, those are the issues I think you should consider. I believe you should look a lot deeper at this thing. If you don't have a signed, solid contract, do not fund and approve the funding of $1.8 million. It does not make sense. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Schiff. All right, we will be going into executive session to confer with our attorney. It is 7:56 and we are in executive session. Okay, it is 9:04 and we are back out of executive session, and the reason I asked Andreas to come up was to ask him the most obvious question, and I have been told that I can't comment on that, so there you are. All right, we are back out of executive session that was held on item 9C.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion. This council served as an oversight board to BEDC. I'm personally confident that the BEDC board performed its due diligence in this matter. Our priorities as a council have been consistent throughout. Stabilize the buildings on each side of 921, generate new jobs, and create new customers for Main Street. We've asked tough questions tonight, and I'm personally satisfied that this arrangement is worth moving forward, and therefore I recommend approval and make a motion to approve resolution number R 2019-54.
Thank you, Councilmember Ennis. I have a motion to approve from Councilmember Ennis.
Second.
I have a second from Councilmember Peterson. Is there any further discussion or questions? Madam Secretary, if you'll call the roll.
Councilmember Peterson? I'm sorry, Councilmember Ennis?
Yes.
Councilmember Peterson?
Yes.
Councilmember Jones?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Nelson?
Yes.
Councilmember Rogers?
Yes. Motion passes unanimously. Resolution R 2019-54 is approved and will be placed on the June 11th agenda. All right, and just reminding ladies and gentlemen that 9A was pulled, so we are done with the items for individual consideration. We're going to try to almost finish out this page. Madam Secretary, we have 2 items on the consent agenda. Council, does anybody want to pull either item 8A or 8B? Is there anyone in the audience that wants 8A or 8B pulled? Madam Secretary, if you'll read the consent agenda.
The consent agenda reads as follows. Item 8A, consider action to approve City Council minutes from the May 14, 2019 regular meeting. Item 8B, consider action to approve the second reading of ordinance number 2019-18 of the City Council of the City of Bastrop, Texas, granting a conditional use permit to allow a brewery, distillery, and winery use on 0.266 acres of building block 4 west of Water Street, located at 919 Main Street, an area zone downtown Bastrop form-based code HMS Historic Main Street within the city limits of Bastrop, Texas, as shown in Exhibit A, setting out conditions, providing a severability clause, and establishing an effective date. This concludes the consent agenda items.
Move for approval.
I have a motion to approve from Councilmember Peterson.
Second.
I have a second from Councilmember Rogers. There any discussion on the consent agenda? Madam Secretary, if you'll call the roll.
Councilmember Peterson.
Yes.
Councilmember Rogers.
Yes.
Councilmember Jones.
Yes.
Councilmember Ennis.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Nelson.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously. Items 8A and 8B are approved. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be going back to page 2, and we are on work sessions and briefings. Item 5A, update and discussion of current legislative session and its impact on local municipalities. Thankfully, they got done in Austin this weekend, and we are still sorting through the impacts and the consequences of all of what they have decided. I do want to bring to your attention House Bill 2439 is sitting on the governor's desk, and if he does not sign it, it will become law by June 16th. I would encourage council to look at their latest TML email that if you're signed up for the legislative updates, you will see an email that came out at 1:08 p.m. this afternoon, and the House Bill 2439 prohibits and limits any building product or material if it is approved for use by the national code. Has nothing to do with whether or not you've adopted the national codes. If it is approved by national codes, you must allow it to be built in your city, and you have no ability to say, to restrict those materials. It also says you cannot establish a standard if the standard is more stringent than the standard for the product defined in those codes. So we're wrapping our arms around that, but an example would be if there is an approved building material of, like, say, 10, you might have your nice house and someone might build the lot next to it and build it out of 10. So we are, the Dallas Morning News had a pretty good article about why municipalities would like to control the materials. Some of them, for example, there is a material that gas lines are allowed in the international code, and based on the weather restrictions, you could actually, if you don't upgrade the materials, the gas line could explode and the house could explode. If this law passes, no city would be able to require you to use the proper materials to keep the gas line from exploding. So I'm not a fan, and if any of you choose to, and if anybody in the audience is concerned about their neighborhoods, I would encourage you to share with your governor that you would like very much for him to veto House Bill 2439. That is my legislative update. I'm attending a seminar. I think it's next Monday. I don't know when it is. I'm attending a seminar that's going to be a summary of all of the laws that were passed for the municipalities, and I know that our city attorney will be working on that as well to see whatever we need to adopt and any changes that we need to make to our codes or ordinances. With that, we are now on item 5B, provide mid-year update on fiscal year 2019 work plan. City Manager.
Mayor and Council, I am dealing with an upper respiratory issue, and I don't have the ability to talk for very long without coughing, so Chief Opgill is going to do my presentation, and I will augment as needed.
I would encourage everyone in the audience that they can go to their packet. If they're not watching online, if it's easier to go in the packet, that the information is there as well. It may make it easier to go along. Chief Altgeld.
Thank you, Mayor, Council, City Manager. Authentic Bastrop. Maintain and enhance our historic community feel by leveraging the combination of community, cultural, and recreational assets that make Bastrop a special place to live and work. So first we're going to talk about in our work plan was the Main Street Rehabilitation Project. This is going to serve as a catalyst for the Bastrop Building Code project. On June 8th, weather permitting, we'll have a pop-up project that's going to accentuate and highlight and showcase the elements of what our code is going to be able to do. After the community is able to see that, on July 9th, it'll be on the agenda, and we'll discuss the easements and proposed construction schedule that we would look for the Main Street rehabilitation. As y'all know, this is a $1.9 million project that we have set aside to make this happen and to enhance our Main Street area. The chicken relocation project, that's an item that's coming on there. We've been moving fast and furious. The ordinance change that has changed the definition will be posted in the newspaper this Thursday, the 30th, and once that happens, we will move forward. Chief Nagy has scheduled 2 dates in June that we will move forward in the early morning hours, where we can hopefully, number one, be able to make contact with the homeowners, and number two, be successful in catching what we have to. I'll give you an up-to-date count on chickens, which will include hens, roosters, chicks, and eggs now. So we're trying to keep them from hatching also. Our North Main Street Community Rehabilitation Project, as you know, that consists of 4 streets: Magnolia Street, Linden Street, Maple Street, and a portion of North Main Street. The drainage project is complete. The sewer project will be awarded on June 11th at the council meeting. The water project will begin in June, and the street project will begin in September. And the street project is right now, weather permitting, we are estimating that it'll be completed by the end of the year. Yes, ma'am? Okay. Some other projects, the Cultural Arts Master Plan, scheduled to come to the council in September. Lynn Osgood is moving forward with her process, and BIPP is being briefed accordingly. The skate park, the bid for that should come to the council in September for award of the first phase of that. And then our local government certification program, which deals with our historical designation, will kick off this summer, and we hope to attain certification by the year's end or the first quarter of next year.
Question. If you're talking about the local government, the CLG, okay, and does that include doing the inventory? The inventory that you have to do before you get CLG?
We're currently doing that,
Come to the mic where people can hear you, please.
So we're currently working on the inventory right now, and then we'll be doing, are you talking about the rebate? Or the inventory for the historical homes?
It's always been my understanding that in order to get CLG status, you have to do an inventory.
Oh, my apologies, yes. So yeah, it includes that. We'll have to look at doing some bylaws and things for the HLC and some specific things through that. But we just now are starting to begin that journey, and I believe we'll have HLC meetings scheduled this summer with the hope that we'll get this certification by the first quarter of next fiscal year.
Great.
Yeah.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Okay. When we talk about communication, that's supporting an enhanced open two-way communication between the city and its residences and their businesses. So, hitting the wrong button, I apologize. Okay. So we're going to establish, the first slide, for some reason it's not pulling up, is our monthly electronic newsletter. As you may have been able to see, we published our first one for May 1st. Our second one is scheduled for June 1st. Rick Gullickson is doing an amazing job capturing stories and putting information in digital format so that our public can catch up on what the city's doing and what's taking place to do. When we talk about improved community with the development community, we've had bi-weekly meetings with developers that go on for ongoing projects, so staff meets bi-weekly to do that. We have a comprehensive update on our processes and checklists to make sure that we're doing things in a systemized, standard, and efficient manner, and more importantly, in a timely manner, so that we're trying to only touch things one time and do what we need to. We're establishing performance measures and setting expectations, and we have conducted code rodeos, specific meetings with developers, transportation rodeos, and drainage rodeos to keep our public in touch with what's taking place throughout the last year. We've improved presence on social media. I will tell you that Colin and Rick have done an amazing job looking at not just how we post our information, but they have it now all color-coded. that deal with certain types of events. And so you'll see commonly for road closures or severe weather, public safety messages, traffic alerts, whether there's prescribed burns in the area so that we reduce people's anxiety as far as reading street closures, city election results, smoke testing, all of these types of things. The fonts are there, the traffic's there. I will tell you that from October 1st to March 31st, when we deal about emergency management, whether that's inclement weather, street closures, traffic fatalities, or anything that impacts the city on an emergency aspect, we had 95 posts that reached 318,298 people in our community.
Wait, hang on. I'm going to get asked that again. Say that again. How many posts?
95 posts from October 1st to March 31st that reached 318,298 people. So I am very proud of what our social media program's going, and I will boast that more people now are coming to our 3 pages, whether it's the city's main page, the fire department, the police department, to get briefed on weather conditions and severe weather aspects and being notified on those times. So
I'm giving Andy the isn't that impressive look. I'm fairly October 1st to March 1st is what you said.
October 1st to March 31st, Mayor.
March 31st.
Yes,
okay.
ma'am.
Yeah, because that's going to become my new poster card. Okay, thank you very, very much.
Chief, let me compliment you and whoever else has been involved in the visual aspects of it and the draw to when it shows up on social media, it immediately draws your attention as opposed to what it did in the past. It's outstanding.
And it's helpful for it to be consistent. You
Yes.
know, oh, that's a road closure. Oh,
Yes.
that's a...
All that credit goes to Rick and Colin. They worked very hard on crafting that.
Colin.
There was a lot of time that took behind that.
There was one thing that I'm not sure, and it might be a dumb question.
Oh, almost.
So what is it?
We're this close.
What is a smoke testing?
Smoke testing is done when they're checking the water lines for leaks and things like that. So they put smoke in the pipes, and then there may be smoke that comes up in the yards and stuff that could be disconcerting to people. So we post
Chief,
that.
let me help you out. They don't put water lines, they don't put
Excuse
smoke
me.
in the water. It's
Help me out.
wastewater.
Wastewater,
Okay,
thank
I'm
you.
just making
Yes,
sure.
yeah, okay.
I didn't know what a smoke testing was.
And so they do it when they think there's a leak, and so
Yes.
what happens is the smoke starts coming up and people see smoke and freak out. That's why we say we're doing the smoke test.
Okay, now I understand. Thank you.
Yep.
All right, thank you, Mayor. So for building Bastrop, our public input, if we remember, if we go back to October 27, 2018, we had a community walking tour as well as a bike tour of downtown. On November 26th, we had a mobility tour of downtown. On November 26th, we also had a developers forum that day. On November 29th and November 30th, we had a 2-day design rodeo. And then December 13th and 14th, we had a 2-day code rodeo that took place for downtown. On April 10th, we had a transportation and drainage rodeo at City Hall. And on May 9th, we culminated that all at the Opera House with our final code update. So we'll move on to our next section of the work plan for community safety, where we want to keep citizens, businesses, and visitors safe. We'll talk about design and build of a wastewater treatment plant number 3. We're at 30% plan design. We anticipate a presentation coming to council in July. A permit has been submitted to TCEQ, which expires September of 2019, but has already been administratively approved, and it's just waiting on the director of TCEQ to sign that permit. We're going to have a public meeting in August. We anticipate 90% plan design estimated in September, and then submit to TCEQ at that time for the design plan. Our update drainage regulations, which includes the 2018 half drainage study that was mirrored with the Atlas 14 map data, where our goal was to, without negatively impacting existing population or environment. As you know, we've been committed to drainage since August of last year. We've worked that very hard with the 2 studies coming together and the work. We've passed a new ordinance, which shows that what we said in August, being drainage is a priority to the city, still we continue to foster that. Some other projects that we have, our water tower, the bids are approved and construction is scheduled to start in June. Our public works detention pond and the Jasper Newton projects, the design is completed, and we're waiting on the Texas Division of Emergency Management to review those plans and award funding. The city has money already earmarked and in place to pay the matching funds for the design and the construction of those, and we're just waiting on the Texas Division of Emergency Management, or TDEM, to give the go-ahead so we can move forward with those projects. Our water treatment plant, we're finalizing the water quality to establish a water treatment process. It's being conducted by Freeze and Nichols, and we anticipate that being done sometime in the period. When we move on to economic vitality, which of course is creating sustainably by infrastructure renewal and investment, enhancing public and private partnerships, efficient planning and development processes, and fostering an inclusive and diverse environment that encourages entrepreneurialism, ventures, and tourism. We'll talk about developing a fiscal impact analysis to determine development-related financial sustainability. If you remember, Kevin Shepard came and talked to us and gave us a presentation, and he opines that in 30 years from now, if we continue the way that we are, we'll be $214 million upside down as far as fiscally sustainable and being able to take care of the infrastructure that we adopt. The second meeting where we'll have a presentation, or a next meeting for our presentation, is scheduled for the second council meeting in June, and Mr. Shepard will be here to talk further about that. He received the codes from Building Bastrop on Friday, just like we did, so he's evaluating those so that he can come forward with some pertinent information for his presentation in the second council meeting in June. We want to continue increasing rental revenue of the convention center by supporting local businesses, small conventions, and conferences. I will tell you that if you compare this year to date from last year, fiscal year 18, we have a 54% increase in revenues. Kathy Danielson and her staff has been working amazingly. I will tell you that I'm not very in tune with convention center processes yet, but I'm learning. And for the convention center to be consistently rented on a Sunday, which is not a peak day, normally it may be for a weekend rental, but for a Sunday standalone only, and for Kathy to have secured her lease for a year for that, shows that she is thinking outside the box. She's working and she's doing everything that she can, and we're very pleased with the progress that she's doing and with her and that her staff are doing to continue to maximize the benefits from the convention center. To conduct the food truck pilot project, as you know, we're in our 6-month pilot program to evaluate how that's taking place and how that's working. So we made forward on that, and we have completed that task for our work plan. When we talk about fiscal responsibility, we want to prepare and manage our budget and maintain our fiduciary responsibility. When we talk about the first year of our street maintenance program, we have implemented that. Old Austin Highway, the bid will be awarded on the council meeting on June 11th, with construction to start after that, and the key thing is it will be completed by August 14th, which is the first day of school. We want to develop wholesale water and wastewater rate categories, adopt standardized wholesale water and wastewater contracts. We have adopted standardized contracts. We adopted wholesale rates. The first reading will be June 11th, with the second reading being June 25th. And our first wholesale customer contract should come in sometime at the end of the last council meeting in June, or the first one in July. Managing growth, we want to plan for and manage growth, development, and redevelopment to maintain Bastrop's authentic feel and character. We've had an updated zoning and sign ordinance. Phase 1, the code update, to be fiscal sustainable and geographically sensitive and in alignment with the comprehensive plan. The draft was submitted to council on May 24th, 2019. Tomorrow will be our joint council planning and zoning commission meeting, and then planning and zoning commission will review on May 30th, June 6th, and June 22nd. We want to adopt the interlocal agreement that establishes standards for the city's ETJ in partnership with Bastrop County, and that has been done. So the interlocal agreement's been completed. When we move to multimodal, we want to talk about improved mobility for all modes of transit to integrate the community through connectivity. So we want to talk about complete gaps in the residential sidewalks for traffic safety in the downtown corridor. We're going to kick off this project in October once the codes are finalized, and the way that's going to work is once our street codes, whatever the plan is for that sidewalk, will go into place. However, for residences and locations that have existing sidewalks, let's say I have a vacant lot and there's no sidewalk, but the property to the north of me has a sidewalk and the property to the south of me has a sidewalk, we're going to call that unfilling the gap, and we're going to put the sidewalk to keep that connectivity there, despite what the code may say for that street alignment. It's kind of like a grandfather, if you will, that goes in. But if there's a sidewalk that's been started there, we're going to continue to maintain that sidewalk and infill as we go along. We want to complete the downtown trail expansion in partnership with the BEDC. It's scheduled to be bid in September, and then construction late October and early November, and we're hoping for completion in August or September of 2019. Tony, who's doing our Main Street engineer, has met up with Tracy Bratton with Doucette, and both firms are coordinating the engineering, the architecture, the planning for the interface that'll take place at Ferry Park and Water Street. We want to address mobility challenges on the west side of the river, on the north and south sides of State Highway 71. We submitted the EDA grant for Agnes Street funding of 1.5, and we're waiting to hear from the EDA. All our documentation has been submitted, so as the military, we're just in the hurry up and wait phase and waiting to see what takes place. When we talk about organizational excellence, we talk about organized governance, progressive operational policies and procedures, and employee and citizen volunteer recognition. We want to develop an organization-wide strategy to be paperless by 2021. That means all ordinances, resolutions, agendas, and minutes have already been scanned. The permanent annexation records, deeds, and easements, we're about 40% completed, and for building plans and as-built drawings, we're about 60% completed. This would not be possible without the intense and hard work and dedication from Tracy Chavez, Kay Rivera, Baby Ruth Bullock, and Allison Long. Allison has done an amazing job to get 60% of the plans, the building plans, as-built drawings already scanned into the system in a digital format. Is amazing, and the work that these 4 ladies are doing is moving us quick and fast to hopefully meeting our goal by being paperless in 2021. Lots of records to be, not only before you just scan them, you have to also file those.
I don't want to leave Ann out. While she may not be physically scanning, she certainly supervised involvement in the process.
My apologies, ma'am. We want to complete this.
Never make the city secretary angry.
Yes. I understand.
Okay.
Complete the City Hall renovation. So we look for the bid to be awarded in the June 11th council meeting with the construction to be completed in October. We want to hire a building inspector and other key personnel funded in fiscal year 2019. So the first thing we talked about was an additional part-time receptionist, and we did that in Baby Ruth Bullock. She works part-time basis at the front desk and does an amazing job for us. We needed to hire a planning and zoning planner, and we did that, Allison Long. She joined our team and is a wonderful impact. A building inspector.
Chief, her last name is Land. Or is this second Allison, right? Well, Allison Land was already here, and then Allison.
Yes, ma'am.
Because their only planners only have
They have the same name and the same middle name too. Yeah. So.
Okay.
That's what. Okay, so our building inspector Eddie Benavides has come on board and working our building inspection side. Our digital media manager Rick Gullickson came in and has been doing great work with our social media posting and our newsletter. Our community council liaison position has not been funded yet, and that's not because we don't want to hire somebody. The problem is we don't know where to put them. We don't have office space. We don't have furniture. There is nowhere in City Hall. The multimedia studio is packed. The convention center, all that space is being utilized. In fact, Visit Bastrop is so full that unfortunately Terry Moore from the YMCA is going to have to be looking for a place, and Susan Smith has been gracious to give her some time, but now Terry needs to find a position. So there is just no space to be had. And until the City Hall renovation is done, my understanding is that it's not feasible to even try to hire a community or council liaison position at that time. Our Main Street Director, Rebecca Gleason, has jumped in and has been doing an amazing job. I think we all enjoyed the sip, shop and swirl, the table on Main. We're excited about her leadership and what she's doing for our building pop-up, and she's been doing a great job. And the council graciously gave us 2 police officer positions, and Bill Reitmeyer and Officer Robert Jordan have joined the department. We're at full staffing. They've completed their training, and now we're seeing the results of being fully staffed and what we're able to do. Evaluating our police vehicles for fleet replacement in fiscal year 2020. We did that at our special council meeting for the budget update, and we presented all that information for you so that we completed that on our work plan. For our unique environment, the continued beautification of natural areas, parks, rivers, and the landscape. We want to support our community-wide brand identity efforts led by Visit Bastrop. I will tell you that since Susan Smith has come in, the relationship that Visit Bastrop has done in marketing, not just what they deem to be their event, the music festival, but anything and everything that's coming to Bastrop. And they're always asking how they can help, what we can do to enhance the event, to put heads in beds, to make the event as successful as possible. The relationship that she has established with Kathy Danielson at the Convention Center speaks volumes with our bookings and what are taking place. I've never seen the Convention Center and Visit Bastrop work any closer than what they have this year, and I will tell you that they're such a strong team that Kathy has been appointed to their board, and she is now the city representative for Visit Bastrop's board. So the working relationship is there, and I can't think that it's just the right recipe for us to be successful with that taking place. So we're very pleased about that. So let's talk about some other notable things that we've done that are not in the work plan. Okay, the Great Places APA Texas Award, Planning and Zoning won that award. Wasn't on the work plan to do that. Wasn't easy to do. Hard work and their diligence made that happen. Our water, wastewater, AA- bond rating is no small feat. And once again, that comes from diligent work. Completing the grandfathering ordinance, another thing that was amazing. Our Safe School grant submittal, another thing that was not on the work plan but took a lot of time and effort. The 2018 Texas Downtown Association Spirit of Downtown President's Award, another milestone in our, if you will, or an accolade in our resume. Our banking depository contract with the First National Bank was completed. Our partnership with Aqua Water, my understanding is that's a 50-year partnership that we have, and so we have that secured for the next 50 years. In addition to that, we bought an additional 3,000 acre-feet of water rights. We completed the 2D analysis on Gills Branch, and we installed generators at the lift stations at Gills Branch and the central lift stations. When we go to our NeoGov program, which is with our human resources, it's up and running, so now human resources can accept applications electronically. And we no longer have to download it, print it, and mail it in, or try to email it in. It's all electronic and has moved us into to the 21st century, if you will. Our utility customer portal is on a soft launch so that they can take care of those types of things for billing and payments online. The IT department took a significant amount of time and updated all the video servers at the police department, which is a lot of video, a lot of redundancy, and it's not something that you can do haphazardly, because if we lose video, we lose the ability to prosecute cases. We completed the video equipment update at the council chambers. And then another thing that's really huge and goes real easy without being said is 5 times in the last year, 5 times Fisherman's Park was completely closed due to high water. And before we can reopen the park, we have to remove all the debris and make sure that it's safe and that it's clear, so that our citizens can go and enjoy the park safely. So for 5 different times, almost 500 man-hours were attributed to making the park safe and be reopened. Once again, that is a big kink in anybody's operational plan when you're giving up 500 man-hours in a year and still trying to accomplish everything that's in our work plan. So the Public Works Department did an amazing job with that. I'm available for any questions. Or
Chief, you did an amazing job filling in for the city manager. Thank you for doing that. City manager?
I just wanted to say that I think we've had a great first 6 months. We are accomplishing quality items that are leaving it better than you found it, people, places, and things, and appreciate the partnership that we have with council. This is an update that I do twice a year, once in May, and it's mid-year, and then again in November. That's the complete year of our work plan. So I always like an opportunity to brag on staff, and thank you, Chief, for filling in. Appreciate you.
Council, I think we should have a round of applause for staff for all they've done. All right, we're on item 5C, review and discuss existing land use chart to determine limitations or exclusions. And Council, you got a copy of the land use chart, and Mr. Jones, does Rebecca want to talk about land
I think
uses?
so.
Okay.
I'll defer to her if she'd like.
Mr. Jones.
Thank you, Mayor, Council, City Manager. This is on your agenda for tonight. So as the Mayor said, a copy of our current land uses were provided to you as part of your packet. That included both the land use matrix for our standard zoning districts as well as the land use matrix for our form-based code.
Council, it's on page 57 if you're seeking.
Thank you.
57 of the packet.
Thank you, Mayor. So that will be helpful for this conversation to have in front of you. So just a little bit of fun facts for our land use chart. Currently, on our permitted uses in our standard zoning districts, we have 290 individual permitted uses. Within the office section and professional section alone, we have 7 different types of offices. So we differentiate between an accounting office versus a real estate office. So it's just very specific. Another thing that I found quite interesting is we have over 20 uses that directly deal with the sale, repair, or rental of cars and RVs and motorcycles. So we get just very detail oriented in how we talk about our permitted uses in our current zoning. So if you take a look at some of the different uses within there, apart from the auto repair, We also talk about window tinting. We have an art supply store. We also have a craft and art exhibit. Along with the building material and hardware and home improvement indoor sales, we also talk about a hardware shop and store. So it's very repetitive in nature. The same thing with the copy shop and a printing company. Those are two separate uses. The only eatery, and I thought this was funny, that shows up independently is a donut shop. I was going to make a smart comment about maybe a cop might have said on some review committee somewhere, but I thought I'd save myself from there.
Expecting that one. He's not
So anyway, donut shops are the only kind of restaurant use that we separate out, but we also allow bakeries. So why the differentiation there? Then you kind of have some dated uses like taxidermist, milk depots, and things of those natures. We did not see video rental on here, which still shows up on a lot of land use charts, but that one has gone away. So when we took a look at the form-based code, we at the time, those were reduced into more categorical type situation on that land use matrix, and we went from 290 uses down to 42 uses, which is still quite a bit in a form-based code. For instance, a lot of them revolve around just a drive-through window. That's the only thing that separates, a financial institution, with a credit union versus one without. A finance, insurance, and real estate establishment, including banks and credit unions with no drive-through. But then when you add it, it's a separate use, but they're still allowed in the exact same zoning classifications with the exact same designation. So it was kind of weird to see that in there. So anyway, that's what we have currently on the books. As far as the building Bastrop codes are concerned, we've started having some conversations that we would focus more on the form rather than the functionality of the building. Chief Altgeld's done a great job of introducing nuisances and how we're going to take that journey and better define nuisances. And it might not be that we care so much what you do with your property, but how you affect your neighbor. And we're going to do that through nuisances. And like I said, James has done a great job on presenting that, and we'll further work on that. We've also talked about, regulating the public realm. We care greatly what you do within the first 15 feet of your property, how you will interact with the public, how that's walkable. But again, what you do on your own property, we might care less about so long as you're not affecting your neighbor. So really today is just to kind of go through here and take a look at some of these uses and see what limitations we want to put or exclusions. We've had some conversations already where some things might not be allowed in certain place types. For example, you might not want certain uses in a P1, in the more rural conservationist district. And some things might not be, allowed in a P5, for instance. But really, this is a policy discussion on how we will move forward and what the land use matrix will look like, if any, in the new B3 codes, which we just got the draft code of.
So, Council, it's important for you to note that this is under a work session and briefing, so we aren't voting on anything tonight.
No, that's correct.
Mr. Jones is seeking some guidance. We aren't making a policy decision tonight, but some feedback. Councilmember Ennis?
We're going to go through this whole thing tonight?
Not unless you want to.
No, I'm looking at, wouldn't this be better for a separate workshop?
Well, part of this is one of the things we talked about, we can allow planning and zoning to vet through some of this, but there are some policy statements, like for me personally, I'm not sure that we want to allow an animal rendering plant anywhere it wants to be in town. So hopefully, and this was one of the questions I was going to ask Mr. Jones, I believe something like that should be restricted from a nuisance standpoint from smell and noise and other things, but I don't know if that's the case. So what I believe what you were looking for feedback on is if there was a use that we weren't certain nuisance would eliminate it, if we had concern about it, that we put it on your radar of, yes, we've addressed that with nuisances, or that's something that we need to, we may not say it's not allowed anywhere in town, but we want to be very specific about where that use would be allowed. Am I understanding that correctly, Mr. Jones?
That is exactly
Yes, ma'am,
right.
that's correct.
So we're really interested in the ones you've got concerns, so we can do our homework relative to the nuisance questions that you've posed and be able to let P&Z vet it and then bring it back. But we're looking for the red flags, if you will.
So I'll be so bold as to go first on some red flags.
Please.
High-risk, hazardous industrial manufacturing. A lot of that seems like it, it may not smell, but maybe when it does smell, that's really, really bad. So I think that's one to look at. Livestock auction facilities. That's also something I think you wouldn't want to be able to just have anywhere in town, and maybe nuisance takes care of that and parking and everything that goes along with that. But you asked for red flags, so those
Sure,
were
absolutely.
the hydrated lime plant, the cement and concrete plants. I know the little temporary ones that they put. That's one thing, but I think this is. For me, council, it's on page 67 in the packet is the industrial uses where those started, and I don't care if it's a attorney's office, a CPA's office, if they have 2 computers or 4, but I think when you get to industrial uses, you may, as you glance through there may be some that the smelter, refinery, chemical plant, slaughtering facilities, petroleum storage, a gravel pit. My personal suggestion to you is to take a good hard look through the industrial uses and to set some guidelines if nuisance isn't going to restrict them, that we talk about what areas of town they may be possible. I also thought it was super interesting, the circus tents. And there was like temporary and not temporary carnival, circus, or tent services. I know, Councilmember Jones, if we talk about the arena, that might be a great place, and we wouldn't want to restrict that. But there may be other parts of our community that don't really want to have a regular carnival set up in their neighborhood where there's no parking or whatever. So I think that is one that's worth vetting. We certainly want to welcome them at appropriate areas, but I don't think we want folks concerned about that. And then zoos, public zoos, that seems like you might want to restrict those areas. And council, that's under recreational and entertainment uses. Those were the 2 spots that I really found a lot. The heliport, I'm not
heliport and helipad,
helistop.
yeah.
Oh, one's a pad? Because that's
Or
not, it
heliport
says
and-
heliport, helistop.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, well, I know we've allowed it at the hospital for obvious reasons, and the airport landing field, it seems like those are so restricted by other things that maybe we don't need to address them. I'm not trying to over-regulate, but I think folks would be interested in knowing if there was going to be a helipad next door to them that they were unaware of previously. So, council, those were my red flags. Do you have any other concerns, Councilmember Jones?
Well, I was looking at this area where it was talking about child daycare and preschools, and I didn't personally see why we should restrict those from neighborhoods. In fact, I think that would be a really good allowance in a neighborhood for
Let
people
somebody
to
walk
be
to
able
their
to
daycare?
Yeah, to have kiddos in a neighborhood and you take them for walks and then they're in yards. And I just personally didn't see why we wouldn't permit those, because we did talk about people being allowed to have like little businesses in their house and stuff. So that one kind of jumped out at me.
Thank you, Councilmember Jones. Any other, Councilmember
Well,
Rogers?
on your zoo one, I don't care if it's private or public. I don't
Just
wanna-
the whole zoo situation, we ought to take a look at that.
Well, that and anytime there's, I wasn't really looking exactly where it was zoned, but just anytime that someone's kept animals outside, if it's not in an appropriate place, whether it's their personal kennels or their, what they call them, puppy mills or things where they're going to raise 100 dogs behind me, I mean, I'm sure the noise and the smell would cover that, but just to.
And thank you for saying that, because outdoor
That's
kennels.
Yeah, outdoor
They're
kennels.
listed separately.
Yeah, they are.
Right, so there's an indoor kennel and then there's an outdoor
Outdoor
kennel,
kennel.
but just because my dog's on the inside, I'm sure you can hear the guy at the front door knows he's barking.
Yes, and you have
They
to
just-
have facilities at least for them to run and play, and so.
And the other one I had was, I'm sorry.
Council member, one of the things that when we did our day-long review of nuisances, there is actually state laws that cover dog and cat breeders.
Oh, okay.
That depending on how many animals you're actually breeding, that we would reference, and state law would kick in at that point. We learned a lot that day.
Oh, okay.
Useful state law. That's
The
good.
other one was just a food processing plant, just depends on how big that food processing plant is and depending on what food they process might make a difference. There's
Yeah,
some things you
they're
like
probably
to
not
eat.
talking about a Ninja Jet, right, making a smoothie. It's a major plant.
I mean,
Could be
greens are
managed.
good to eat, but when you ever try cooking them,
Councilmember Rogers made a comment that I want to just draw everyone's attention to. In the packet, when you look at this and it shows the zoning ordinance and the zoning types, realize that that's the old.
That's correct.
And so those won't exist anymore at all. So when you're looking at things, you really are just looking at the use, because we no longer have those zoning
Yeah,
classifications.
and think about it, how they would
Impact the neighborhood.
fit in a place type.
Yeah.
So the P1 through P5.
Councilmember Rogers, did you have one more? Or you can have as many more as you want.
Okay, go ahead, the wrecking yard, and like I said, until you put them in the right place, doesn't mean we can't have them, but since we weren't going by these terms,
Yeah, from a use standpoint, that's another one that you want to
Right.
make sure we allow.
just in an appropriate place, that's just, everything's allowed, appropriate.
Was that it?
That's it.
Did I see Councilmember Jones?
Right, and so the, another thing that I was looking at on here was, it was talking about single-family, attached dwelling, multifamily, accessory type uses, and it shows it not being permitted in the historic Main Street, but there are living situations, and we specifically talked about above business, and there's also duplex situations where
Yeah,
you
so
have
those zoning
multiple-
classifications aren't there. So and the way our code's written, that'll be addressed and they'll be allowed. So it's.
But I thought we were supposed to talk about okay, so anyway, I'll just say this, and then if I'm being redundant or inappropriate, at least I brought it up, I guess.
Please.
Because I was just saying that I want that to be allowed in those areas, and we did talk about that. I just want to make sure I bring that up.
Yeah.
And then the other area that it says it's not allowed is in neighborhoods. So I just want to make sure that I'm being clear that we did talk about that. We are allowing it just because it's in there.
Yeah,
So
and
if I'm
Yeah,
not
yes.
understanding the format, I apologize.
No, this is the first of a two-part conversation. What we're looking for tonight are the things that y'all really have concerns about. The other things will be dealt with at a P&Z level, and they will make recommendations regarding the place type. Once their recommendations are done, then they will give it to council, and we'll bring it back for y'all to vet, to see if y'all agree with the place types that they've done. But if there are some things tonight that you have real concerns about, we need to flag that so that P&Z is set up for success and knows that these are things that need to be talked about or whatever, so that we're giving good guidance. And at one of our workshops, y'all had asked for the ability to just remunerate the concerns as the mayor has quantified. Don't fall under the nuisance management as nicely as we would like. So these are the things we'll have some additional conversation about.
Okay, so, that being said, I mean, there's things that we want to address that we have concerns about, but then the flip side of that is there's things that I want to bring up that I don't want them to be concerned about. For example.
And so that'll be the purpose of tomorrow's joint meeting with planning and zoning.
Okay, but can I just bring
Please.
up one more thing, please? So that being that, when you talk about the neighborhoods and stuff like that, the flip side of the preschool also maybe elder care, how as people sometimes maybe bring 2 or 3 elder people into their home for elder care in neighborhoods. I'm not concerned about that. I just wanted to bring that up. So other than that, I didn't really have
That's a good
anything
point.
else.
Okay.
All right, council, anything else? And we'll get to see, Mr. Jones will be with us at our joint P&Z meeting tomorrow.
Yes, ma'am.
Car wash.
Car washes.
Car wash.
It's a real problem on Chestnut.
Real problem on Chestnut.
Neighbors are constantly complaining.
Okay, good. Another good red flag to make sure we have a valid conversation about. Great. Council, I am going to go ahead and speak for Mr. Jones that if you find anything later or think of something tomorrow or the next day, please feel free to drop him an email and let him know.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jones. All right, now we're on item 5D, update on a pop-up presentation scheduled for June 8th, 2019. Ms. Gleason.
Good evening, Mayor, City Manager, Council members. I am here tonight to discuss our upcoming Building Bastrop pop-up event, which we are super excited about. My name is Rebecca Gleason. I am the City of Bastrop Main Street Manager. Our event is slated for June 8th from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. And Building Bastrop put together this pop-up event to really bring the codes to life. And the idea is that we have been working on these codes for a year now, and they are nearly complete. And we would like to introduce those codes to our community in a very tangible way so that we as a community can come together and see and feel and touch and really experience what the new codes are going to do for us. Main Street has partnered with Building Bastrop to put on this event, and we will be doing Summer in the City. And the idea is that we will be able to show the community how we will use our re-envisioned Main Street space once we get through our Main Street rehabilitation project. We will be putting in for the day 4 sidewalk cafe parklets and 8 activation sites, spanning all the way from Farm in Maine down to Water in Maine. We will go over them in more detail so y'all can learn more about the event, but just quickly, we will have everything from a carts informational stop to farmers market vendors, board games in front of the chamber, sidewalk cafe parklets, an EDU center, a kids zone, and musicians. So the purpose behind our Building Bastrop pop-up event is to showcase our expanded sidewalks. And with our new expanded sidewalks, we're really hoping to create a community space that right now cannot be there because of how narrow they are. It's going to create a better pedestrian experience, both for our community members and for our visitors. We'll also be placing more benches all along our Main Street corridor. And not only will we be placing more benches, but it also has to do with the placement of the benches and how through a different placement system we can create community spaces and places for people to gather. We will be increasing landscaping, which not only brings color downtown, but will increase shade and also ensure that our new landscaping systems don't interfere with our current infrastructure. We are also going to be showcasing the multi-mobility of our downtown Main Street corridor with a cart stop. Carts will be there talking about our re-envisioned cart stop at the Main Street and Spring intersection. We'll also be having bike racks throughout the event, which will be in the final design, and really just showcasing the walkability of Main Street. Now, what is Main Street Summer in the City doing? I like to say that Main Street's bringing the fun to the event, much to the chagrin of the planning department. We will be doing a kids zone at Ferry Park. We're going to be bringing in musicians for the day.
Yes, Mr. Jones, she just said you're not fun. That's what she said.
We will also be doing oversized games and a scavenger hunt among all of our businesses to get people involved. At Ferry Park, we are partnering with the YMCA to bring a kids zone to Ferry Park. So we will be having a bounce house Mr. Will be there performing, and Mr. Will is kind of a big deal. His latest CD, trailblazing the charts, so he will be here in Bastrop performing. We will have Miss Poppy the Clown, who will be painting faces. She's kind of a Bastrop icon from what I've been told. And we will be having a coloring station complete with our Bastrop designed coloring pages. The Bastrop Museum and Visitor Center is another official community partner for this event. We will be having an activated parklet in front of their building. We will be having a Dreaming of Bastrop board so that people can give us feedback on what they foresee the future of the Main Street Rehabilitation Project should look like. We will be having music. Our first musical guest, we haven't signed a contract yet, but we are talking to a bluegrass trio. It'll be fun. The Texas Lovebirds will be there performing. We'll have Adirondack chairs, and it will be a great gathering place for us. We will be having a total of 4 sidewalk cafes that will be placed strategically along Main Street. Our first sidewalk cafe we're calling The Lounge, and it's a collaboration between the Pit Stop Bastrop Beer Company, Pawpaws, and Anita's, and it will be an area where we will be placing oversized Jenga boards and an oversized Connect 4 board, so that way you can get your breakfast taco at Anita or stop by Simply Sweet for a cupcake and lounge around in the lounge area with your family and friends. We'll be having another sidewalk cafe at Maxine's Cafe and Bakery, so they will have seating out there with umbrellas so you can eat breakfast or eat lunch and enjoy the music from the museum. Then we will also be having a sidewalk cafe at Macoco's. It's also right there right across the street from the visitor center, so you can go for brunch and enjoy the Lovebirds. Sidewalk cafe number 4 is going to be down at 704 Main, what was the old visitor center, and we are having a space there that we are going to be building out with picnic tables and cornhole games, oversized Jenga boards, and we are going to be having Gardaro's Donuts there. They are a food truck out of Austin, and they will be serving gourmet donuts. We will also be having farmers market vendors who will be along the Main Street activation site. So we have partnered with the 1832 Farmers Market that is right here in the Main Street District. They have farmers market every Saturday. And we have partnered with Community Gardens. And Community Gardens has a farmers market every Sunday. So we will be bringing in Green Gate Farms, which will be hydroponic lettuce. Green Gate Farms does organic produce. Green Acre does hydroponic lettuce. Radiant Mama is Bastrop's only cold-pressed juice store located in Community Gardens. And Grammy's Country Kitchen and Farm that does jams, jellies, and pickles. Musicians for the day. We are still awaiting our final musician contract signed, so I didn't want to place that on here, but we will be having musicians throughout Main Street all day long. At Ferry Park, like I mentioned, Mr. Will, our children's musician, will be playing. At the Bastrop Museum, again, the first one is to be determined, but we're working with a bluegrass trio. The second performance there will be the Texas Lovebirds. And then on North Main, we will have a performance by Jimmy and Amy. They do acoustical guitar duets. Landscaping. We are really excited to officially partner with Community Gardens and Greystone Gardens, which is located in Community Gardens, to be landscaping this entire event. So they will be designing and landscaping each sidewalk cafe. They will be placing large potted plants at the entrance of each of the crosswalks to bring attention to the fact that some of the crosswalks are new for the day, and also to slow down traffic, escaping the bump outs, again, to slow down traffic and bring attention to both the pedestrians and the drivers on Main Street. And they will be bringing in street trees all the way from Water to Chestnut and Main. Public art. We have partnered with the Lost Pines Art Center to bring in public art for the day. So this will all be done in chalk, and we will come by Monday morning and wash it all away. But hopefully it gives people a sense of what public art in our Main Street district could look like and get people excited and help us push forth any future public art projects. So we will be arting 6 crosswalks with color and designs and really bringing some fun to downtown. We will be doing 2 selfie installations, all in chalk, so that way people can go and stand in front of a set of wings that say Bastrop, and hopefully we're trying to create Instagrammable moments that can help pull people offline and into our downtown. We will also be doing some sidewalk art that will go the entire length of the project. EDU Center. So we are working with the Hub, which is a great space at 913 Main. If y'all haven't been, it's our downtown co-working space, and they have great coffee there. So we will be building out our EDU Center there. All of the items from the Code Rodeo will be available for the community to look at. We will be building Bastrop postcards where people can write us comments about what they'd like to see in the future of the Main Street Rehabilitation Program, or project, sorry. The City of Bastrop Planning Department will be there answering questions, and our lovely mayor will be there along with some of our city council members. So the whole purpose of this event at the end of the day is really it's an opportunity to collect feedback on the future Main Street Rehabilitation Project. So it's really important for our community members to come out to see the future of the Main Street Rehabilitation Project, to see the codes come to life, have those conversations, and be together as a community for the day in our Main Street, which is really the soul of our town. So we are doing several things to ensure that this event is not only a great time, but that we're actually having those conversations and getting that feedback. So we'll be having 2 Dreaming of Bastrop boards placed up where people can write about what they'd like to see in that district. We'll have the EDU Center where we'll be collecting information, and we'll have 4 comment card stations with the Building Bastrop postcards where you can write us a note about what you'd like to see. From those Building Bastrop postcards, those people will be entered to win a donated Yeti cooler. So leave your comments.
Council, you're ineligible for the cooler, just so we're clear.
Our official community partners for the event, with whom we could not do this event without, are the Bastrop 1832 Farmers Market, Community Gardens, Greystone Gardens, again, which is within Community Gardens, the Lost Pines Art Center, the Bastrop Museum and Visitor Center, and the YMCA. Any questions?
Why don't you talk about the contact that you've made with the business community and all of that on Main Street that they're engaged in?
Absolutely. So one of the things that was really important to us is to let them know that this day is just as much about them as it is about the future of Main Street, the Main Street now. And so we have been visiting with business owners for the last week or so and letting them know about what's going on and why it's going on, and going ahead and gathering some of that feedback. We're also the Main Street program's doing a scavenger hunt. So we have 7 of our downtown businesses who have decided to be a part of that. And so people will get boards that will have clues on them, and it will lead them to 7 of our downtown businesses and 2 of our activation sites. And if you complete the entire board and turn it in, then you are entered to win an iPad mini. So it's not only about us spending the day as a community on Main Street, but it's about us really interacting with the businesses that are already there and dreaming of the future.
Good job, Ms. Gleason. Council, any questions for Ms. Gleason? Mayor Pro Tem Nelson?
I do. Are we going to have, are there going to be people downtown that kind of serve as guides and they're clearly identifiable for people to say what's going on here or what's going on there or where can I go to see what's going on there?
Yes, so I will answer that question and I'll elaborate on it a little bit. So we will have stations set up where people will be collecting the comment cards and will be telling people about the event, but every single activation will have a branded Building Bastrop poster explaining the activation, why we're doing the activation, what it's trying to show us visually, along with a holder for brochures so you can take it and it will tell you not only about the event, why we're doing the event, but it will explain all the activation sites, so where you should go to see all of the good stuff.
I think Mayor Pro Tem Nelson may be looking for, like we have those Ask Me About Building Bastrop buttons. Will there be people around that folks can bump into? Is that... Yeah. Yes. Also, not only will we have the comment card stations along Main Street, but we'll also have people walking. So if we'd like us to do buttons or T-shirts, or we can easily do that. Suggesting is you don't need
T-shirts so that everybody, it's obvious.
Neon, bright yellow, blue, something where it's, you don't have a group of people going, I don't know, what do you know? I don't know, what do you know? And
yes, ma'am. T-shirts are easy.
Good point, good plan. Anything else, Mayor Pro Tem Nelson? Council, any other questions or comments about the event?
Great job.
Thank you.
I'm absolutely have agreed to be in the EDU hub, but I'm not being there the whole time because I want to see what else is going on. So.
I kind of whispered to Councilmember Ennis that y'all will be invited. You just don't know that yet. So the only
they've been
confirmation
invited.
we had was from Mayor Schrader. So the rest of you will be invited to take your turn, but she wasn't going to commit you until you said yes.
I'm going to commit you.
I actually committed them. They've all been invited.
And,
so I've heard back from several that y'all will be there.
When she said
So.
lovely mayor, I thought that's why Councilmember Ennis was laughing. So I'm glad to know it was the waiting for the invite. No, but between that time, it's from 9 to 2. Correct?
It is, yes.
So I'm sure we'll be dividing up that time and making ourselves known in the community. It'll be a great time to interact with everyone.
Absolutely.
Good job.
Thank you.
Councilmember Jones, anybody else? Any comments? All right, moving right along. Moving on to item 5E, provide an update on the chicken relocation project in downtown Bastrop. I guess we're going to hear about eggs and chickens and roosters and Chief Altgeld, gourmet donuts.
I have a comment for Councilwoman Rogers.
Yes.
This is my favorite part, Drusilla.
We're good.
Chief Altgeld?
So, since May 2014, as I said during the work plan update, we anticipate the publication of the ordinance change coming out on Thursday, and Chief Nagy is in the process of scheduling our next 2 chicken roundups for June 6th and June 7th, where we will put the new ordinance into effect and ask people that are having them on their property to allow us to come on, and if they say no, then we will take the appropriate action. Progress to date from March 2018 to today, 234 chickens have been safely captured, relocated, or with the eggs they've been taken care of. That's 85 hens, 66 chicks, 73 roosters, and 10 eggs. So we're catching those because we figure if we can catch them before they hatch, they're less problems.
They're easier to catch in the egg form.
Well, I'm telling you, they sure are.
Just saying.
And so that's where we stand today. I'm available for any questions that you may have.
Is that counting the chickens before they hatch?
Oh, it's getting late. We got to move on. Any questions for Chief Altgeld?
Well played.
All righty, good job. Moving
Thank you,
right
sir.
on. I'm sorry, Councilmember Ennis?
I just said thank you, Chief. Yes, sir.
All righty. Okay, we're on staff and board reports. 6A, receive monthly development update. Mr. Jones. I'm sorry, I should have called you in order so you didn't have to go back and forth.
Right. I'm going to share with you how much fun the planning department's had over the last month. So again, this is our mission and purpose statement, just for the purpose of people at home reviewing the packet online. So in April through May, the last 30 days, we had 172 people visit us at the front counter. We've issued 68 permits, and then we've had 23 pre-application meetings which puts us over 1,300 counter visits fiscal year to date, 549 permits issued, and 120 pre-app meetings for this fiscal year thus far. So this is our moratorium metrics as of May 15th. So you all rescinded the moratorium on May 14th. As of the moratorium ending, 675 permits were issued, 513 trade permits, and 162 residential and commercial permits. We processed 25 exception applications, and 26 letters were issued. 48 exemption applications were turned in, and 46 of those were approved. We had 137 pre-submission meetings, and then upcoming, so pre-application meetings now are 5.
Each one of them more fun than the one before.
Yes, ma'am, that's correct. So new certificates of occupancy. We've issued an additional building number 2 out at the Hunters Crossing Apartments. For the Mike Fisher building, their 911 call center, they did some remodeling out there, and that was the CO's been issued. And then we have a new record store in town at 705 Pine Street, Astro Record Store, so be sure and go check those places out. Just another update on our commercial projects. So Stem and Stone, they're nearing completion. They're about 90% complete. As you can see, they've gotten some of their landscaping and they're sodding down. So they're working on the outside, and they're also feverishly working on the inside. But the exteriors come along nicely, and they're about 90% complete.
And if you follow them on Facebook, they're now beginning to show some of the menu testing
Little
that they're doing. So
little
it's
menu
worth following.
teasers, yes, ma'am. Home Goods, they're also rocking along. They're about 80% complete. Still pushing for a July 2019 completion date. Seton Hospital, they've now have some of their glazing or their windows up, and they're doing some interior work now on plumbing and things like that, electrical. So they've moved to some interior work as well, and they're again 60% complete and pushing for October 2019 completion. The 365 mini storage, we saw some activity out there. They've got some of the concrete poured for the different driveways and retention and the parking areas. So they're making some progress out there, about 25% complete and looking at a December 2019 completion date. The Lost Pines office, they put a roof over the structure now and beginning to work on that structural. They're about 50% complete in September 29th completion date. Residential products, not much changed here. We're processing a few plats, but we don't have any new lots in Pecan Park or Piney Creek Bend out there under construction. The Preserve, we still haven't issued any COs yet. And then the Hunters Crossing, we just issued an additional one, so they're rocking right along. Training, David Brasich, our building official, went to some courses and passed his certification, so he's now certified by the International Code Council for Fire Inspector 1 and 2. So that he did that. Yes, ma'am, I agree. Just a few events. We attended the Chamber Luncheons, our quarterly employee luncheon, and of course the May 9th rodeo. And with that, any questions or comments?
Great job, Mr. Jones. Council, any question for Mr. Jones? All right.
Thank you.
Great job. Lots of fun. All right, we're on to item 6B, receive presentation on the unaudited monthly financial report for the period ending April 30th, 2019. Ms. Waldron.
Good evening. Let's see. So I'm here to report on the month of April, and I will make this short and sweet, and leave the best for last, right? Everybody is positive. All the major funds are positive except for electric, which I'll cover in a minute. A lot of the economic indicators have turned around this month more than in the past couple of months. So the sales, Texas sales is up, and the national sales is also up. On the all-fund summary for revenue, the impact fees are in red, and that has been explained in the past, but we don't always have control over the impact fees and how they are collected, so we're just keeping an eye on that. And also the electric is in mourning, and I will cover that a little bit later too. On the expense side, on all the major funds, the Hunters Crossing pit is the only one that's not in positive, and I will be bringing a budget amendment for that at the next meeting. General fund revenues and expenditures, they're net positive, almost 5%. I did want to put some explanation in this particular slide in that just because the entire fund is at a net positive doesn't mean that individual departments may not run into some issues, and our financial management policy does define our budget level at the department level, and so we're watching some of our revenue and some of our departments, and this may require a budget amendment in the future before this fiscal year is out, but I just wanted to bring that to your attention. On the sales tax revenue, we're 5% over forecast. Do want to point out that I did have several taxpayers pay early. I've already seen the May numbers, and so basically we'll be leveled out after the May numbers, so I don't want y'all to look at that 5% and think that it does even out over the next couple of months. On property taxes, we're just about almost perfectly break even at this point, so we estimated pretty closely on that one. Water and wastewater fund as a net total, we're almost 4% net positive. On the revenue side, just almost 1% over forecast, and we had one new residential meter set this month. Electric fund revenue and expenditures, almost 4% net positive, and on the revenue side, as I mentioned earlier, we do have a slight warning. Actual to forecast is just -1, almost 1.5%. And this could change over the hotter months, so we'll keep an eye on that. Hotel occupancy tax fund as a whole, 11% net positive. On the revenue side, we are right at almost 3.5% over forecast, but year over year, I just wanted to point out is 25,000 down from where we were last year. On the legal summary, any questions you have for me?
Good job, Ms. Waldron. Council, any questions for Ms. Waldron? Having the information and having an opportunity to review it ahead of time sure makes all the difference in the world, and your comments are very helpful and very much appreciated.
Good, thank you.
All right, Council, we are moving over to the bottom of page 3. The executive session item that is listed is item 10A. City Council shall convene into closed executive session pursuant to section 551.071 of the Texas Government Code for a legal briefing by the city attorney on contractual issues regarding the Chapter 380 agreement between the city and Bastrop Retail Partners, LP. It is 10:20 and we are in executive session. City Secretary, I think I've done all the items, but while we're in executive session, if you would double check and make sure I haven't left, I'd appreciate it. Thank you. It is 10:44, and we are out of executive session. We're moving on to item 11, take any necessary or appropriate action. There will be no actions taken as a result of council. We are on item number 12. Mr. Peterson.
Madam Mayor, I make a motion to adjourn.
We are adjourned, and it is 10:44. Thank you.